Can you hear me?
Yeah.
There you are. What's up, dude?
What's up, dude?
You would think that after a year of virtual teaching that I would have the technology thing figured out by now. Nope. That's not how it works out, brother. What's going on?
Not much, man. How you been?
Oh man, living the dream, brother.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, dude. You know, it's been a hell of a year, dude. I gotta say. It's been a hell of a year.
Wild.
Yeah, man. How about yourself? What's going on?
Not much, man. Just still kicking it here in South Philly. Just,
Beard game's on point, cuz.
Yeah, growing a beard.
I wish I could do that. The best I can do is the Fu Manchu.
That's okay. That works. That works.
Trust me, it had to work. My wife made me shave it after like month 2 of the pandemic. I had to get rid of it.
So you should have dyed it blonde first.
I told her, I was like, I'm gonna go. That's gonna be my Halloween costume. I was quite certain that the pandemic was gonna be over by Halloween.
Right.
But here we are. I'm still virtual. It's crazy. It's crazy.
What school district are you in?
So I teach. It's called Renaissance Academy Charter School. It's in Phoenixville.
Okay.
So it's really part of like the Phoenixville community, but our biggest pool is Norristown. So it's like Norristown and Phoenixville are our 2 biggest pools. And we get kids from all over, from like Tredyffrin and Easttown and Westchester, like not necessarily Westchester, but not that far out, but Downingtown, as far up as like close to Methacton. So Methacton, I think is like the stretch, but yeah.
Okay. So you pull from all over.
Yeah, man, we'll definitely have to next time I'm down there. I'll give you shoot you a text or something.
Dude. Yeah, dude, do this proper.
Hey, absolutely, man. That was the one thing I was bummed about. I was like, my wife was like, you're a teacher. Are you really? Is this in your best interest? And I was like, I'm just shooting the shit with an old buddy. You know what I mean? Like, I just like you and I feel like we never. It wasn't like a hangout thing. You know what I mean? But I think that there was a little bit of mutual respect there. And then after, like, when Facebook came along, with the music. I mean, that right there was like, holy shit! What like. How come we haven't been like in touch and hanging out? And then the wrestling thing that I had no idea about. I'm a huge wrestling nerd, so it's just kind of.
So a couple points on that. It's funny because you're one of the first people that I really remember of like having like that kind of that internal moment of like, oh, you've got to move on, dude. You've got to like. And this is me talking to myself, So, when things started up on Facebook and like and I started getting in touch with like Jason and Kevin again, I didn't really know about like different crews or who was friends with who or whatever. So I've been talking to Kevin a lot. We'd gone to a Sixers game years ago, and then Jason, I always kind of like back and forth with talk and stuff, and I knew him from like college time before I left the area, and so when we were back on Facebook and we're talking about music, and then like, oh, we're doing this hip hop thing. We're doing this battle hits, right? And I'm like, oh, okay. And at the time, it was just like, we just had there was the Facebook page, and it was just Kevin, Jason, and you. And you don't have your full name on Facebook. So at first, it was like, I was just getting these tags, and I'm like, oh, Kevin, Jason, and I was like, who is this? Who's this, Christopher? And I'm looking, and swear to God, my first reaction was, oh, I don't fuck with him. I don't fuck with Gebert. Like, that was my first thing, was like, not in like a negative way, but just like, bringing all that high school shit with you into your 30s at this point. And you go, oh, well, my memories of Gebert, like, oh, well, he's cool with this guy and that guy. And like, I don't really like talk to any of those guys. I never did. And that was the whole point of the podcast, was because I didn't have relationships with all these people. And then it's like, I run into them and just have this, hey, how you been? Yeah. That's how you would have been. I didn't have any type of a relationship. So I even like, I felt a little hesitant. And I think it was more of like a fear of like, you're going to be like, Corbett's in this group. What the fuck? But that was my impression. That's the idea that I would have. And so like in the very beginning, I was very hesitant, and I may have even like just tagged Jason and Kevin and like left you off. And then like, I think you tagged me on something like, oh no, I'm cool to be in this. Like, this is okay to be in this. And one of the very first people to get like that, I started adopting that mindset with.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I think back to that time. So let me just so Christopher Smith on Facebook, like, clearly there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
Number one, my middle name's Smith. And I really, really hope that my students' parents don't listen to this podcast, because then my students are going to be hitting me up. So the reason why I went to Christopher Smith was because they would find me when I was teaching. So I started teaching in North Penn School District. I was 4th grade, so I didn't have anything to worry about there. And then my very first job out of North Penn was up in Allentown. And they always call Allentown the mini Philadelphia, and it's a challenging spot. But the funny thing about that is I was teaching 7th and 8th grade English with these kids, and they are like, to this day, I still keep in contact with some of them. I mean, I have my one of the kids, he's in the military, and another one, he's playing basketball. I went to go see him 2 years ago down at LaSalle. So like, it's funny how that all works out. But these are the kids that were finding me and blowing me up every single day. And I'm like, I can't have this. As if I want to be a teacher, if I want to have a career path here, I need to change things. So my middle name being Smith, I was like, this is perfect. Christopher Smith. If you Facebook search for Christopher Smith, there's 1,000. I mean, more than that. There's like, there's thousands of them.
It's one of the most common,
Exactly. It's a common.
Like that, and shout out to Mike Brown. Like those are like the two.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, and it's just, it's interesting because it was like, all right, what kind of person do I want to be? Am I going to be like the players coach where I'm going to, trying to be friendly with these kids, or am I going to be the mentor and like, hey, I've been there. So obviously, you want to go that second route, and you want to be the mentor to these kids and everything like that. But so I changed my name, and they couldn't find me anywhere. And then it became that was the hot topic of the year. We have to find Mr. Gebert's, we have to find his
social
Facebook,
media.
his social media accounts. So it was like a big treasure hunt. But going back to what you were saying, I think like growing up, like it was just one of those things where my parents real early, they said, you have to be welcoming of everybody. Like you can't sit there. And did I bust balls? Absolutely. I mean, I'm 5'6". I had nothing else to do but bust balls because everybody was giving it to me.
Yeah.
But there's always a fine line. Like I'll never forget getting pulled into a 5th grade meeting with my mom, my dad, and my 5th grade teacher, Miss Revels. And Miss Revels was like, I just wanted to pull you into this meeting just to say to you how proud I am of you for accepting. It was Safir Body. Safir was, he was
Pakistani.
He was a handful. Like in school, and he really.
Sorry, you're talking about his personality. I go right to his nationality.
But he was a handful, and she was like, and at no point do you like jump in. Like it was always you're accepting, you're trying to bring people into the group. So like, when it was like, oh shit, like, it's Corbett, like, absolutely. Like I know of him. I didn't know you personally, but like, that was the fun part. Like to see like, yo, he fucks with that music. I fuck with that music. This is like a great, and it's a perfect bridge. And if you ask any one of my friends to this day, especially Nelson or they will tell you that getting into my car is like stepping into the DeLorean, because there is nothing. It's 1998 hip hop to 2006, 2007. It's like funny, like that Wedding Crashers or Step Brothers or whatever movie it is where, they're on stage. It's like, yeah, we're strictly 80s Billy Joel.
Right.
Yeah, no, I'm strictly 2000 hip hop, sir. So I don't know if you know that, but yeah, it's really hard for me to get out of that, to get out of that, that funk and try to get into the music. But I will say, having an 8-year-old son now, he has definitely, given me more eclectic taste in music, if you will. So.
Yeah, I've had time during the quarantine to like really, I mean, I've been the same way. Like I'm very like, I look at it as a fault, because when you're single and you're trying to like, oh, what are you into? And like, you just go to like, do you like 90s R&B? Do you do you like the Bad Boy era right after Biggie died? Like the Bad Boy for Life era? Like, that's what I'd love to talk to you about, Mark Curry. And,
right.
Like,
yeah.
And I'm cursed with that. Like I like new, I'm into like 21 Savage and there's some guys that I really fuck with now, but for me, it's a comfort thing. 90s, late 90s, like 95, 94, 95 to like 2003 is really like my wheelhouse.
Yeah, I couldn't agree. I couldn't agree with you more. Like, I mean, my very first memories of hip hop were Brad McGoldrick, Farley. Farley used to have this huge tape deck, man. I mean, like it was just, it was two tape where like where you dubbed you can dub
Yeah, the dual cassette.
and then the CD player on top. So
Oh yeah, the tower.
yeah, it was huge. His setup was unreal. And we would sit there for all hours. Like his mom was so freaking cool. She would go out and she would buy us like the Dr. Dre or the Snoop Dogg CD, and then he would dub it for me. And then, and then we'd be dubbing it for everybody with Paint Hills. And it was just like this whole big thing. And those were my very first experiences with that. And then, oddly enough, like I found this. Stony Creek, fifth grade. Yeah. And I was just going through it. I wasn't doing any prep work or anything like that. Actually, Uma and I got so banged up one night that we pulled out all the albums, and we were just like, oh man, remember that? So this was like, I knew exactly where this was. But like just looking at like some of the people and their favorite music, it was either Warren G, Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre. The movies were like The Program. Mrs. Doubtfire was a real popular one. So it's crazy, man. Like how many things like just bring up those memories and things like that. But yeah, that music right there, those albums, The Chronic and Doggy Style, definitely, got me into it. And I know every single word to every single one of those songs. It's insane. But
yeah, it's funny. I can skip, I cannot listen to those songs for like a year and a half. And then like, I'll hear a sound and it'll take me off. Like if I hear any, like when I was pouring the vodka and it's just you like just hearing that. And then I wanted to go, and like just go right into it,
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the other thing about this, like I always find like Wissahickon in general, it's really hard to find a group of people who have been away from each other for 20 some years and who can easily just come back and reconnect. And I feel like that's a Wissahickon thing, because I know people from Upper Dublin, I know people from all over who don't have like what we have. Like if we kind of just got into it, like it wouldn't be surprising for you if you came up and you saw like one of our get-togethers where you see like a bunch of people just together, and it's like, holy shit, you guys all still hang out. You know what I mean? Like it's not just three or four of us. Usually it's like when we get together, I mean, you get the old crew back together. It's 9, 10, 11 people.
Yeah, at a minimum.
Yeah, exactly. So
so you started at Stony Creek? Were you there from the beginning in kindergarten?
Oh yeah. Yep. Mrs. Ranieri was my kindergarten teacher. I was my very first memory of school was it was George H. Bush and Michael Dukakis, the 1988 election.
Wow.
I remember shit like that. It's really weird. But like it was funny because they gave us like this little piece of paper and like check who you would vote for. And I'm looking at Dukakis and I'm thinking in my head like that does that say dick? You know what I mean? Like,
well, that's funny. That's what you think it says instead of cock.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, there you go. I can't read it. I didn't even know my sight words at that point, But like when they're talking, there's just so many random memories that kind of come back. And when I was looking through that album, it's also kind of sad because you see like all the people that aren't here anymore along the way, and we've had a huge like. That's the saddest part for me is that, like, oh man, I remember hanging out with that kid, when we were 12 or whatever. Like I was looking like Mike Davidic, you know what I mean? Like He was one that was a good friend of mine, Stony Creek. We would always cross paths like later on. And that was, when he passed away, it was tough. And then his sister passed away and his sister was friends with my sister. And it's like, wow. Man, like it's incredible. The pain that some of these people, these families have gone through. And, I feel blessed to still be here. But, I mean, you guys we talk about it all the time. Like, I mean, not me and you, but, E-Dub, Evan, like one of my best friends. And that was pretty devastating, especially because like him and I kind of lost touch towards the end. And it's like, you always wonder, like, is there anything that I wish that we continued some of those relationships. And his music was blowing up and he was really like, he was just like, I'm so thankful for those memories and the laughter that we had. It's just, it's so many memories come back and there's so many that you don't even know which ones to key in on. So
who were you hanging out with in Stony Creek?
So Stony Creek was it was like a grab bag. You know, like we
Were you in Bluebell? You said Whippane Hills. Is that where you were? Is that where you were living in
No,
Whippane
I
Hills?
live right down the road. I live walking distance to Whippane Hills. So
Okay.
like I would like Farley came, Brad came in fifth grade, and that's kind of when him and I, him and I really hit it off. So we had this band, Adam, Brad, and Chris, and it was Adam Salter, it was
Yeah.
Brad McGoldrick, it was myself, and Brad Troutman also, who was
Double Brads in the group.
yeah, dude, it was pretty badass. I didn't play a thing. So I brought nothing to the table. The only thing I brought to the table was the C. And like, I can't dance, I can't sing, I don't play instruments. So I was just happy to be part of the group. You know
Did they?
I mean? Huh?
Did they?
No, none of us. We didn't do shit. It was just like what we talked.
You guys
about.
watching California Dreams and like we could do this.
Yeah, dude, great show by the way. Good pool.
Thank you.
But there was then like Lamar, Kareem, Rafi, Cedric Harris. If you remember Cedric, like there were quite a few of us in that crew. But like Adam Salter, Drew Douglas, Dan Cassidy. I can't believe I forgot about Danny. I'm not my oldest friend. But yeah, so Danny and I grew up like where I lived. Danny lived right behind me or in front of me, depending on which side of the street you're on.
Sure.
But Danny and I oddly enough, today is the anniversary of his dad's passing. So rest in peace, Mr. Cassidy.
Definitely. Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah. And that's Danny and I have been together for I'm 38. So 35 years. Wow. You know what I mean? Like since we were 3 or 4 years old, we went to St. John's nursery school together. Ryan Dunn was in that. He was at St. John's with us. He didn't go to Stony Creek, but his mom and my mom had a great relationship. So
okay.
Yeah. So like I'm all over the place here. But
yeah. No, you had it sounds like you were like so it's interesting because my friend group always came just from my street. I grew up in South Ambler where like Mike Mayall and Ray Campion and Bill Clayton and all those guys like just lived there. And those were my friends. It didn't really, outside of like a few people, we used to all go to Alex Mader's house after school and in the summers. And so like Alex Mader and Brandon Markcraft and Matt Osga and Alex Grosskirth and like Andy Bell, those guys were like encapsulating those groups, and we all did Cub Scouts together. And that was about it. So no matter where I went through Wissahickon, like that was kind of like my core of people, until I got to like high school time. But it sounds like for you just had a lot of different influences. And I always say this, it feels like an Ambler versus everywhere else, because Ambler had like streets and neighborhoods and you could ride your bike anywhere you want. Bluebell, you had to get a ride to most places, right?
So, well, technically you probably should have, but so that's actually the funny thing. Like it would not be unheard of to see me riding my bike down 202 and heading over to like Drew Douglas's house or to Eddie Waltemate's house back in Corman Suites. We were not safe, man. I mean, like the shit that we did then, you can't do anymore. Like, and like either people are going to report you and the cops are going to pull you over on your bike, or, you're going to get hit by a car because people are crazy now. But yeah, I mean, we literally walked or rode our bikes every single place that we went to. And, it was the beginning of the, it was easy to go up to Whippane Hills and to hang out there. And then we would go down to like that strip mall down in where Clover and
Center Square,
right?
The Clemens, where everyone worked. Yep,
exactly. And we'd go into the tunnel where Clemens was, where like we'd smoke our cigarettes and be like little stupid kids, you know what I mean? But it was, and then it just kind of grew. And it's like, once your friend group grows, especially at Wissahickon, because it's such a big area. I wasn't going to ride my bike to Ambler, but at the same time, I could go and I could see like Drew and Eddie and some of those people on the other side, more towards wherever I could get to. Yeah. So yeah, man, it was not unheard of to see things like that happen randomly, like little 12-year-old on a bike just wheeling down 202. Can you imagine seeing that right now?
I was going to say, and that's before 202 got the construction. So like it didn't even really have shoulders.
No, there was no shoulders. That's even better. You know, like right by where St. Helenas is, and we're like Pat's hairstylish, like that whole like right there. It's so narrow. I
Mhm.
remember like almost being hit by a car multiple times.
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, at least I had the wherewithal to like, you know, stay in a straight line and like try get to where I needed to be.
But
So
that's how it was, right? We could do anything back in the 80s and 90s.
yeah,
Like our parents, I don't know. We always, I feel like nowadays people look at like our parents. People always say parents were strict, right? They hit you.
yeah.
They, you know, what I mean, they didn't let you talk to you. You see parents nowadays yelling at her kids yelling at the parents. You go, oh, my parents would never. But like, but also our parents just let us literally play in traffic.
Yeah,
How
you know, I
strict
mean,
was it?
it comes down to like logical consequences. You play in traffic, you get hit by a car, that's your consequence. You
That'll
know,
learn them.
happens. And it's like, you know, I'll bet you. And it's like my dad sitting there with the cracking a Coors Light and with the steak on the grill, like, well, that's what he gets for playing in traffic. You know what I mean? It's just it's funny like that, how things have completely changed. And as a teacher, you know, like I remember my childhood very, very well, but now I'm seeing like how these kids are growing up. And now as a parent, like what kind of parent do I want to be? And it's a tough question to answer. You know, there's a fine line between being strict and like, you know, wanting better out of the kids, but there's also like, you know, it's everything that you do or everything that somebody hears or sees nowadays. They put you under a microscope, and it's really scary. And it's
Right.
like
It's everyone's business now.
exactly. And I'm so cognizant of that. Like, even if my wife and I are like yelling at the kids, like, and the windows are open, I'm just like nonchalantly like close the window. My wife doesn't care, man. She's Italian. She will scream her head off. She wants everybody to know that she's gonna rip our kids' heads off. And you know,
That's me. Yeah.
yeah, and that's like I'm a loud person, and it's like, all right, man. Like, but at the same time, perception's a big thing. I don't, you know, I don't want people to think that I'm sitting there beating my kids, and because quite honestly, you know, that's one of our philosophies is like we don't raise our hands to our children, but at the same time, we're very strict and we're firm. So
Right.
you know, if they're gonna mess up or they're gonna do something wrong, they'll go to their bedroom. They're, you know, no snacks, no dessert, nothing like that. We'll take their electronics away. But like, it's just one thing that her and I agreed to when we had kids. And it's like at this point right now, you know, Christopher, 8 years old, pushing the buttons. You know, there's every once in a while I'm like, oh, so I'll flick him in the back of the ear. And it's like just to get it, let him know that I'm here and I'm watching him, you know. But
You ever think about just like going for the flick and then just accidentally just being like, bam, oh, sorry, just kind of like,
yeah, well, you know, he's a ball tapper, so you have to be very careful.
oh, wow.
Yeah, man. Like he knows when people are exposed too. He'll just bam. And next thing you know, people are on the ground. So it's
Shout out to Howard. Watch
yeah,
him.
right. Oh my gosh, Howard, absolutely. I see him run around by Epiphany like well, I did when I was down that way a lot. So
I saw him last weekend. I was down at the Campions for Easter, and he was literally right outside on Chestnut Street. He was just like hanging out on his bike out there with I said, I didn't go out to see him. I used to work with him for years. And so I was just kind of telling some of the Campions about my days with Howard back in the day at Wawa.
yeah.
And I go, yeah, man, he used to just roll around with the yellow vest. And they go, yeah, he's wearing the yellow vest right now. Of course he is.
That's awesome that you still keep in touch with the Campions. That's yeah, much respect to you. Ray was in my 6th grade class, and he was always a really, really like sweet kid, man. Like, you know, he was kind of quiet, little reserved, but you know, he was always a sweet kid from what I remember. And I know Pam has a great relationship with him too, or had you know, and Pam and I have a relationship because when she went to Bloomsburg,
Right.
you know, yeah, her dad used to drive us back and forth, and I used to make these CDs, and he would listen to them because he loved Led Zeppelin was like his shit. So like I'd like little Led Zeppelin on there, you know, and he would put them on, and he would jam out. He's a great guy. So I got fond memories of that.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, like I said, man, I feel like a ping pong. Like it's not like, you know, I'm a personable person. That's why I'm a teacher. That's why I'm a bartender. You know, I love
Social and keep it moving.
And it's just like, you know, I can sit here and I can bullshit with somebody that, you know, for hours. And it's kind of like my thing. And I just something that I really enjoy doing. So which is why like I always had like a friend group, but like I was always friendly with people outside of that friend group. You know what I mean? Like it was one of those things. Like, again, it probably came down superficially to like perception. I didn't want anybody to think I was a piece of shit. I didn't want anybody to think I was like some person. Number one, I can't fight. so I never got in a fight. Number two, I'm 5'7", so like there's even if I got in a fight, I get my ass kicked. You know what I mean? So it was always
Yeah.
I always found that it's like it's better to like just be polite, be respectful.
But were you aware? Like, did you like? I don't think I thought I was being like disrespectful, or I thought, I just thought like I was just being, I don't think I was aware enough of my behavior to know that I'm being an asshole to to a classmate, or or that I'm even like starting something, causing something until it happens, and then you're in it. And I was never self-aware enough to be like, oh, I need to be better towards people.
Yeah, I think a lot of it was like sarcasm. You know what I mean? Like there were
Yeah.
probably people who thought that I was a dick or as an asshole. But quite frankly, I'm such a sarcastic person. Like the inner circle of my friend group would be like, that's just Gebert being Gebert.
Right.
It's has nothing to do with him. And like because honestly, like there were just so many just so many like people that I had come in contact with, and they were all like unique and cool in their own way. And it was like, it's one of those things where, man, I wish I got to hang out with that person more. And like it goes back to like a Ryan Dunn, like who was a really, really great friend of mine growing up. And him and I, when we hit like middle school and high school, kind of grew apart. But I hope Ryan never thought that I ever treated him wrong or like an asshole, because I was like really every single time, just because him and I didn't hang out all the time. It was like every time we saw each other, we were friendly. I remember the 5-year reunion. Him and I have a really great picture together where it was like, holy shit, man, it's so good to see you.
Yeah.
And that was the year before my mom had passed away. And my mom and his mom were tight. So my sister Melissa and his sister Jamie, they used to hang out, and him and I would hang out. And then Margie Donna and my mom, they would walk around like Montauk Park, which is like in where is that, like right towards Upper Dublin.
Yeah, like Fort Washington off of Susquehanna.
Yeah, I think it's like Maple Glen or whatever. But yeah, exactly.
Great basketball courts.
Yeah. Okay. And yeah, so they would like do their thing there, and then I have great memories of being with Ryan, and like that was the first time he was the first one to introduce me to Transformers. I didn't know what a Transformer was, and it's crazy because he had freaking tons of them.
What a cool memory!
Oh, dude, it was like Transformers. There was the movie. It was a Disney movie with the space guy.
Real life?
No, it was like in the 90s. It was something man, and it wasn't Rocket Man. I can't remember it. But it was the
Rocketeer.
Rocketeer. That's exactly what it was.
I had that figure.
Yeah, the first time I ever watched the movie was in his living room. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And his mom used to take us every single time that we would hang out. She would always take us to McDonald's. And I was like, it's like, oh, you're gonna go hang out with Ryan and Jamie. And I'm in the back of my head, I'm like, shit, McDonald's, let's go. But like at the same time, like Ryan and I, we shared so many things. And like he introduced me to a lot of stuff, and it was a really cool memory. It was cool to have that experience with somebody who, even though we grew apart a little bit in middle school and high school, we could always reconnect and just be like, hey, what's going on? How you doing? And I think him and I, like that's a point that I was trying to make right there. Is I feel like a ping pong ball, like bouncing back and forth, because it never really mattered who I was with. I could always hang out and just make things work with whoever. It didn't matter. So,
well, it's funny because I think of middle school, and that's really one of the big themes of the show. Is I always felt like middle school was kind of that moment where the break happens because you're kind of friends with everyone in your elementary school or in your class, or at least everyone's forced to recognize you, right? You have to do birthdays and Valentine's Day cards and all that shit.
Yeah.
And then you go to middle school where you're in pods and you get kind of broken up from people. And I was split up from my friends. I didn't have anyone in my class. No one I really knew in my pod that I fucked with like that. So that was like a hard time for me, but I think that's the moment for a lot of people where you've got to reestablish yourself socially. But I will say that I find when talking to like kids that are in the cool kid crowd, which I would put you in, you guys had a much bigger circle of friends from elementary school that at least you were able to continue some normalcy going forward in a pod.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't disagree with that.
Even if you didn't know it then, or you weren't, you know what I mean? You weren't going to the cool parties or anything like that then, but that group, I guess the group really started to form in middle school and multiply out like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I can't even remember anybody from Stony Creek in my 6th grade pod, and because like I mean, I know like right when I got into sixth grade, like it was like James Eckert was in my class with Mrs. Gross, and
Mm-hmm.
it was like James and I just kind of hit it off, and it was like, all right, you know, like so now I got somebody, and then James's people, I guess, wherever he went, did he go to Bluebell? I can't remember where he went. No, Shady Grove, because he lived right across the street.
Yeah, it was with me in Shady Grove. Yeah.
Okay. So like I guess a bunch of Shady Grove people were in there. So it was almost like when James accepted me, I was accepted into the Shady Grove group. You know
right.
what I mean?
That was Nelson. That was, all those.
Right. Right. Yeah, exactly. You know, it was just kind of, it was weird. And then I think what really made things easier was like sixth grade, you establish like some friend groups, you know what I mean? And you're starting to like, you know, not cross boundaries, but like starting to figure things out. And then sports in seventh grade. I think that was probably the biggest like thing, because, you know, like I said, I played football. I sucked, dude. I'm not gonna lie to you. You know,
You said you were 5. You're 5. You said 5'7", 5'6".
Yeah, 5'7".
5'7". I don't want to short you. No pun intended. 5'7". But then so you're doing you're doing football in middle school. I can't imagine. And then you've got to be like 5'1".
Dude, I was about 4'7".
Yeah, I was gonna say 4'10", but I didn't want to.
I was still under 5 feet tall. But like, you know, it didn't, like, for me, it was just about like being out on the field with the boys. You know what I mean? Like I played North Penn Squires football for 4 years prior to that. And I was actually a decent football player when I was younger, because everybody was my size.
Right.
It was when everybody started growing and I didn't grow that I started like becoming like afraid of contact, because, you know, you got these big kids coming at you and here you are and it's like, bam. And that shit hurts, dude. Yeah, you have pads on, but that hurts. So, but like, you know, being out on the football field and like hanging out with like the Ryan Parfits of the world, who are like these big popular kids who are playing football.
Super athlete.
Yeah, exactly. And like, you know, it was cool just to kind of be in there and kind of be in those groups. And even though I didn't play all that much, or, you know, I still was in the in crowd, I guess you could say, because I tried, like, that wasn't for lack of effort. It was really, you know, probably lack of ability more than anything, but also, you know, lack of height, lack of weight.
But you're there grinding with them in practice, and you know what I mean? Like you're doing all the hard work with them.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I do know that Mr. Glacken, because we won like all those middle school championships. I remember that I was the only one that wasn't that didn't get his name etched on the trophy, didn't recognize me, and I called him on it. I went back a couple of years. I think it was like probably 10 years ago that I was back there. I'm still not on that trophy, but
no way.
Yeah, you win some, you lose some. I was bitter about it in middle school, and I was like, you know, you forgot to put my name on it. And he was like, "Oh, we'll get it all fixed up." Yeah, he's just sitting there like, "Get away from me, kid." You know.
I would never let that go.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, man. I know I was there. I have yearbooks to prove it, to document me on the football team. So at least my kids can't question me. Not that home for me.
Now, when I talked to Chrissy Krause, she had told some stories about the country club, which is like the first time really like anyone's truly talked about like country club. And I was like, whoa, wait, country club? What is this about the country club? And like, you know, full disclosure, people who listen to the show were like, country club, holy shit. Like the country club is so outside of many people's, you know, view. Tell me about your country club experience. Much like the basement parties.
Yeah.
The country club, I also know nothing about. Bring me in.
All right. So I guess if I'm going to talk about the country club, I need to start here. In front of Wissahickon, right before you know, if you're coming down Penland Bluebell Pike and you make a right onto, what's that road? Is that's not Houston Road, right? Is
Dagger?
It? Dagger. Yep. So when you're coming down Penland Bluebell Pike, if you look on the right-hand side, there's a big sign. It's called Meadow Farm. All right. In the back is 3 humongous mansions. And so my grandfather, and I want everybody to know, I'm going to preface this right now, that I did not grow up rich. Okay. I promise you. My grandfather, however, was a self-made millionaire. And he had a construction business and, you know, residential home business. So basically he was just a realtor, and he put $200,000 of his own money into his business. He grew it on his own, and it became a very big, a very, I don't want to say an empire, but I mean, he was recognized.
Sure.
So he built these mansions on the back. It's called Meadow Farm. If you pass it, you would know exactly what I'm talking about. Because there's a little, it's almost like a little cabin that's in the front. It's right off the trail that they made.
Yeah.
Goes down. So like you pass it, you run right by it. But my grandparents moved in there, and it was like I was blessed as a kid growing up and being able to go and to be able to, go to the swimming pool, play tennis on their tennis courts, fish in their pond. I mean, they had a huge property. And then they subletted it out to other people, and he made a ton of money off of them for when he did that. So that, so manufacturers was, at the time, I hated it. I hated having that stigma on my back. I hated swimming, and I swam in high school. You know what I mean? Like, it was one of those things where I just hated it. Like golf is a different story. I love golf. I still golf to this day. And then there's tennis. My parents, they were like, you can play tennis if you want. You don't have to. I wish I kept playing tennis, because tennis is actually a really fun sport. Yeah. But so the country club, I was not country club material, Brad. I can tell you that right now. Probably when I was 9 or 10 years old, maybe a little later than that, like 11 or 12. Craig McDonald, who was a year younger than us, he was also manufacturers.
Yeah, I remember Craig.
I decided to go in the women's
locker room.
Yeah, Crowbird. We decided to go in the women's locker room with Patrick Bello, who went to LaSalle, and there was a couple other people who you probably you wouldn't even know. But we went into the women's locker room. We had shaving cream. We had like the whole deal, man, and we just ruined it. And like everybody was at like a Christmas party, or they were all busy, so nobody was here. So we think we get out scot-free, and we're all like, yeah, nice job, everybody. That was awesome. Next thing you know, they check the cameras, they see exactly who it was. And it's like, oh shit, yeah, we're in a country club. They have surveillance. So yeah, that was a tough conversation to have with my grandparents and my father. They were not.
Bring shame to the family.
Happy. Oh my gosh. My grandmother, how can my sweet grandson, like, you're supposed to play in the member guest, and now the women don't want to be around you. And it's just like, oh God, like,
did you get kicked out?
I'm a 12-year-old kid. No, we had to, it like goes back to logical consequences. I ruined it. They give us like the all the cleaning supplies. Go clean it. Yeah, go clean it up. Oh
man, like in A Walk to Remember with Mandy Moore.
Yeah, exactly.
Shane West.
Yeah, so like that's part of who I was at the country club. You know what I mean?
When you said you didn't feel comfortable, or you hated it, what is that? I can assume what that means, but what does that mean to you?
Like, I just, being a country club person, like it gives you the inclination, like other people, the perception that you have all this money. Like, little do they know, like, I'm growing up, like, there's the hamburger helper mint, the little guy with the nose that like giggles, and I can't even eat hamburger helper because my mom used to get like 5 pounds of red meat, and she would just get 5 different boxes of flavors, and that was dinner all week. You know what I mean? She would just cook it up, different ones. My sister will tell you the same thing. Like, it was a struggle, man. And, my dad finally left like real estate, and he started his own business. And that's when he started, we started like, becoming more comfortable. But like that country club stigma, it's almost like a false front. You know what I mean? You go home and you're eating hamburger helper, and you're living on peanut butter and jellies and like dry cereal in the morning, and you don't have money to go down to Clover to buy like a pair of jeans or Kohl's or whatever it was at that point. And it's like, but you're at a country club. So you know what I mean? Like I always felt like, yeah, that it was kind of a stigma. So, I rebelled, man. I wasn't the greatest kid. But again, I forged a lot of friendships within the country club, and, Chrissy being one of them. Chris T now, I apologize.
No, we came to an agreement when we did the show. She can be Chrissy on this show.
Okay, good.
I don't know if only I can call her that. In my head it is, but I'll allow you to call her that as well.
Well, I appreciate that, and hopefully she'll agree. But like Will McBrien, like I'll
Hmm.
never forget the first time I swam in that pool. Like he was so mad at me because I was so bad at swimming. He was behind me, like crying, like get out of my way, and I'm just sitting there, like lollygagging, like I hate this shit. You know what I mean? But like the golf course. That's some of my best memories. I made some of my best friendships on that golf course. I have not played that golf course for 20 years. And that's one of the things that I miss most about it. Being out there with a couple of my old friends and just hanging out. Like
Yeah.
it is kind of like a fraternity almost, where you have those relationships, and you only get to see them in the summertime. So it's almost like a summer camp.
Yeah.
So and that was always cool. And like I think like Chrissy and I and like Will, we were friendly in middle school, but like in the summertime, it was like that's who you hung out with. And it would be like you hang out with them when you're at manufacturers.
Mhm.
And then when you're not around them, it's like it is what it is. It's a really weird scene, dude.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, did you think so? Like in my head, when you lay that out, that's like the classic movie scene. But it's usually so it's not usually where like everyone's in like kind of the same. I would look at you guys as all kind of in the same, friend group, the larger friend group, even
Right.
if you guys weren't all personally hanging out in school together. But when you describe that scene, it's usually like the nerd who hangs out all summer long with the cool
Yeah.
kid, and then they get back to school, and the cool kid wants nothing to do with the nerd, and the nerd's like, I don't get it. We hung out all summer long. So for you, even if it wasn't like a nerd cool kid thing, you guys were all kind of, social peers. Were you ever like wanting to continue that relationship going back to school and like kind of realizing like, I mean, you did realize it, but were you ever kind of like taken aback, like, oh, what's going on here?
No, I don't think it was ever like that. I mean, there were definitely it's definitely like, you see him in the hallway and you say hi. And if they like, if I said hi to Christy and she ignored me, then yeah, I would be slighted by that. Like, dude, like we just hung out all summer and now I don't exist. But I do feel like, you get like, in order to be in a country club, like there's a couple things that kind of come with that. Like you have to be respectful, you have to have manners. And clearly I was none of that in the beginning. I figured it out towards the end. But I think it goes back to that respect factor. You know what I mean? Like I can't imagine walking down the hallway, someone saying hi to me and me ignoring them because I'm trying to big time them because I got friends over here.
Right.
And I think that Chrissy and Will and Craig and some of the other people that were in that club, I think that they would all probably tell you the same thing. Like it wasn't like I was sitting there calling Chrissy or Will or anybody like like at night. Like I still had my own friend group and things like that. Because the phone was a popular thing back when we were younger. Landlines, obviously. But yeah, I mean, it was just like I said, it was a really weird dynamic. It's not. It's definitely a part of my life that I'm appreciative of. But I think at the time I probably didn't see it that way, and I was more worried about that stigma. Oh, you're a rich kid. I didn't want that. I wanted to hang out with the kids in Ambler, like the Nelsons and the Malhorns and all those guys who kind of like were always right there. And I didn't want to be known as that country club kid. And, so it was one of those things that I didn't really announce all that much. And it wasn't like, oh, I go to manufacturers in the summer, you know what I mean? But
yeah, I didn't know. I mean, I didn't even know about manufacturers. Like I'd never heard of it before. I don't really, my experience again, goes to TV, everything does. But like my experience with like country clubs is like when Brandon Walsh was working at the country club in this, the summer season of 90210. Like that's like what I know. And when Zach and the crew were working at the Malibu Sands, with Stacy Carosi, and like that's what I relate. But similarly, my grandfather, self-made man, did very well for himself with his own business, and our lives were very, very different. Like at home, growing up in South Ambler, versus like when we would go to go out to dinner. My grandfather liked to go out to dinner all the time, so like every month we would go out to dinner with my grandfather. My grandfather would hand me a little cash, and he had a condo in Stone Harbor, so we would go down there. And then even when I got older, as a teen, and I I had family friends who had a house in Ocean City. And so I would go and stay at the beach every summer. But again, I'm staying there. It wasn't my house.
Yep.
I was allowed to treat it like my house, but it wasn't mine. Even to recently, I had someone reach out to me just in conversation about, some of the things early in the podcast that were being discussed. And I think it was Kim Devaney's podcast where she was just talking about like how she grew up and some of the things that made her uncomfortable as far as like class and wealth and all those things. And someone reached out and was like, what about you? You talk about all the stuff with like poor people versus rich people, but what about you going to the beach house and all that stuff? And automatically I was like, my defense went up because I'm like, whoa, that's not my house. Like I have no claim to that. I was allowed to stay there, but like, and instead I'm like, don't classify me as like someone like that. Like this is how I grew up. It's funny how that is like having money or whatever. Like maybe it's, if you don't have it, you don't want someone to think of you as that versus like, I'm ashamed to say I have money. No, it's just like, I'm a guest and it's, hip hop. I can't front. Right. I don't want to be out here front. And this is not my shit. I'm a guest here. I'm being allowed to bring here. But like 9.5 times out of 10, you are not going to see me dressed like this, hanging out here, doing these things,
Yeah. And like to speak to your point, like, I mean, that's the stigma that I'm talking about. You know what I mean? Like I'm blessed now. Like my dad has a house in Stone Harbor. I grew up in Stone Harbor, so I'm very familiar with that. My wife's family, they have a house in LBI. So like my kids are blessed. They get to go to the beach for their summertime.
When you were like in middle school, going into high school area, that's kind of like the time where I was really like, I felt like, girls, sex, parties, the real like kind of social world that we kind of grew up in as teenagers really started like infiltrating, becoming like making itself aware, I guess. I wasn't doing it. I wasn't dating. I didn't hang out with girls.
Neither was I, brother.
Okay. But you were hanging out with friends that had girlfriends that were partying, that were like your group, like that group was forming, right? Where it's like, okay, we're spinning the bottle or whatever, going to the basement party. Like you were in that crew, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing about me, man, was I was such a late bloomer. Like, I mean, I don't honestly, I don't even know if I hit puberty before I was 17. Like, I mean, that's a lot. Full disclosure, I should say.
Sure. Yeah. I got
like,
a flash there.
It's just like, it's one of those things where like, you want to be in the in crowd. You want to like hang out with them. And here I got like talking about like, the old fashions that he's getting in the hot tub from people. And I'm like, oh, God bless you, man. Like, how do
you do that?
Exactly. Like a student, like, so what did you say? Did you,
what'd you do?
Yeah. Was there like a secret handshake or what? You know what I mean? And like, for me, like, it was just like, I would just use like my deficiencies, maybe like to my advantage, and just be like, yeah, it's cool. I'm just not there yet. But like everybody around me, all my friends, they were hooking up, they were having fun. And for me, I didn't drink all that much in high school. And it was more for me, like I was more of the driver. It was just an interesting dynamic, like to have people in the back, like full out makeout sessions, like behind me, and I'm driving them around and I'm like, shit, like that seems cool. Like, I wonder what that's all about. I mean, my first kiss was Melissa Morgantan at 7th grade. So and I remember that.
Yeah. But that's that time. That is exactly like, you know what I mean? Like, so like you got a little taste of it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so I guess, I don't know. Do you feel like that happens, like where you kiss Melissa Morgantan, but then nothing else happens? Do you feel like that's just kind of like, well, Gebert's here. Let's give him a gimme. Let's like get him in the game or whatever. And then you just don't have.
I could say with certainty that wasn't it, because it was 7th grade. It was we were in school and I had to meet her in the girls' bathroom. So she wanted to kiss me. Like, that's what I hope so.
They want you in. This is what we do. You're up. I want you to be the guy.
Exactly. And it was like, it's one of those things where I was petrified.
Yeah, you weren't ready.
Like, walking into the girls' bathroom, number one, I'm like, shit, if people see me, I'm in trouble.
I would never do that.
I know. And then you walk in and it's like, okay. And then she's just sitting there and it's like, hey, how you doing? And then bam, thank God she made the first move, because there was no way in hell I would probably walk out there screaming. And I'll tell you that it was really hard for me to initiate even in high school, like as we got like to the later years, you know. And honestly, like back then, like sixth, seventh grade, if you check the yearbooks, I had a wave. Like, I mean, I had no idea what I was doing with my hair. I had none. And it wasn't until Malhorn and Nelson sat me down in Nelson's backyard, and they were like, "We're gonna shave your head." And I was like, "All right," like a 4-clip. And then it was, I'll never forget it. It was like 80 degrees outside, and they put the clippers to my head, and it's like really hot. And I'm like, "What the hell? Why is that so hot?" And Malhorn just starts dying laughing. And I'm like,
all down.
what did you do? And then I looked in the mirror, and I just had one strip down my head that was complete no clip. But you know what? I haven't changed. I have not changed that hairstyle since. And it's you know, I have them to thank for you know, for some of the the better times that I've had in my life. But yeah.
And as you get older, dude, that's going to work out.
Exactly. You know, you can see it's starting to go. It's starting to go. But hey, then
dude, mine doesn't even hang out down there.
Shit. Yeah, that's a good one. But like I said, man, and then yeah, I'll just start shaving my head. I mean, the good thing is I do have a round head. I have a pretty good head for a bald head, so I can make it work. But like it's funny, like, you know, you learn a lot about yourself as you like get older. And I thought the wave was the coolest thing. You know, I'm putting product in my hair, and I'm like, yeah, I look good. And everybody's making fun of me. Everybody, and I had no idea. Like, oh man, and you know how I figured it out was once I shaved my head, people were like, damn, dude, that looks so much better. And I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like so much better. And they weren't like, it wasn't like, you know, oh yeah, that's a good change for you. It was, damn, like it was pretty much like, dude, you look like the biggest douchebag before. Now you actually, that, you know, I can look at you. So
that's so funny. I historically,
thank for that.
I never get haircuts. It takes me 6 to 9 months to go get a haircut every single time. Right. I just let it grow. It gets curly. Whatever happens. Wherever it doesn't come in, it doesn't come in.
Yeah.
So I used to, when I worked at WWE, that's how I rolled also.
Yeah.
Right. So like, but like everyone there is very clean cut, but I don't know. I'm just like, I've always been so blind to my own, you know, to my own looks. Up until recently, I was just kind of like, I don't know. I'm just kind of doing me. I just, whatever.
Yeah.
And if you look at my old pictures, like my hair, I rarely even combed my hair back in high school and middle school, like just whatever, you know, I didn't even wake up early enough to do any type of style. When I was at WWE, I remember like my hair was just growing and growing, and I finally got a cut. And that's when I finally started getting it cut shorter and like combing it down and all that. And all the girls, all the divas, as they were called back then, in WWE were like, that Kelly, like, oh, that looks good. And Layla and Eve Torres, and they're all like, oh, you look good. And someone was, I think it was Layla. She pulled me to the side. She goes, that looks so much better. And I'm just thinking like, fuck out of here. I know I looked good last week. And then I'm thinking like, oh, did everyone saying something? Maybe I didn't.
Shit, man, the fact that you actually got to like even like talk to those women is just that's awesome, man. That's shit.
Dude, if you know, it's funny. If I feel like at times it fucks me up for life because I'm so unfazed at times by, you know, it's like you have to put a filter in, because you go from watching these girls on TV and be like, oh, she's so fun. Which one do you like? I like her. She's so hot. To, oh, now you have to write TV for these girls, and they're looking to influence you because there's only so much time available.
Get that airtime.
We're trying to get there. So the more friendlier, the happier they are to see you, you know, the more they're hoping that you get in there, that they put you in there.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's hugs. Every time you cut, every girl wants to hug you. Hello. And so my brain, like, and they make it, you can't date.
Hey, you're don't worry. You'll be on Raw 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Tomorrow.
Well, we're going to put the title on you.
Yeah, exactly. Come and give me a hug, girl.
And so they're like, you can't date the girl, you know what I mean? Don't do anything funky with them. So it's like in my head, I'm like, okay, that could get me fired. So I just put up like I just have this ability to, like, if I don't want to care with really pretty girls, whereas I think prior to that, I used to be just like, oh my God, like you know, you see me on the podcast, right? All the crushes and everything, just like I would just fall so hard and like whatever. And I was able to, that taught me how to put up like a shield a little bit to make myself oblivious. But I kind of hate that that's a thing now, because so many times when you meet a girl and you just like, before you fall like for a girl because of how, like you talked about when you when you saw Jackie, right?
Yeah.
It's at Bloomsburg, right? Now it's like my brain goes to what does she want? What could she, what could she possibly want to take for? But don't lift that wall up just yet.
Yeah, I mean, and what's funny, dude, is like even like there was something about, like, I don't want to say there was something about me, like, but whenever like I would have a girlfriend, you know what I mean? Like even in high school or even in college, like I just knew that like it was either gonna end like terribly or it was just gonna end. And it was funny, like, so with Jackie, like the first time we initiated contact, I was bartending at Reed's and she had like introduced me to her football player boyfriend. And it was like one of those things where I'm like, oh, hey, what's up, dude? Like, how you doing? I don't even think I was bartending at the time. I think I was just there. Yeah. And he's like, hey, what's going on, man? And like, he's probably thinking in the back of his head, like, she's got a crush on him. Like, he was such a jealous dude. But I was like, I'm like, hey, what's going on, man? How you doing? Like, let me buy you guys a drink. Did that whole thing. And then, is that me?
That's you.
I don't know. How the hell did that happen? Okay. Somebody FaceTime me. Sorry, Jackie's computer just hooks up to my phone now.
That's scary.
Yeah, I know, right? Shit.
Jackie, if you're watching us, hi.
Yeah, I know, right? She's getting her hair done right now. But yeah, she was like, so like it was the first time I was at Reed's and she goes, you go to Bloomsburg, don't you? And I said, yeah. And she goes, oh, I know you. And I'm thinking in the back of my head, I'm like, she knows me. I was like, I know her. I didn't know her name. So I knew who she was. I just didn't know her name. And the reason why I bring that up is because the first 5 or 6 times that we would go, we went to this bar called Hess's. And Hess's was like the spot to be from like 12:30 to 2 a.m. At Bloomsburg. And everybody would go to Hess's and you would just dance and you would hook up and you'd find if you're like looking for a girlfriend. Yeah, pretty much. Exactly. That's actually a really good comparison. But like, so Jackie and I would just dance. And I told you, I don't dance. Like I am the epitome of white when it comes to that. But for whatever reason, she kept wanting to dance for me. So this was probably like 3 weekends in a row, 3 Saturdays in a row. And they always ended on Keith Sweat Twisted. And, Keith Sweat Twisted, it's a great song. It's like a makeout song. And I never had the balls to make a move. And every single time, so the first time that we had hooked up, she was still with her boyfriend and she goes, oh yeah. And then she like said, okay, call me. And I said, I don't have your number. She was like, yeah, you do. And I said, wait, what's your name again? And she goes, excuse me, turn around, walked out. So fast forward to the next week, we're sitting there, we're dancing again. She goes, do you know my name? I said, I have no idea your name. You have to put your name in my phone. I don't know. So long story short is I had tried to figure out her name for at least like a couple of weeks and I just couldn't figure it out. And then finally she put her number in my phone. And that's how and she's beautiful. You don't forget names like that. Right. And forever. She thought that I was fucking with her. She literally thought that was my game. And I said, if that was my game, that's what it should have been my entire life.
Like you're doing the dentist method. You got to break them down first.
Like, Jackie, I apologize. Cause if you ever thought that I was not being truthful, I literally forgot your name. And but I love you. So there's that.
It worked out.
Yeah. So it's funny, man. Like how, like I said,
funny.
Yeah. So
when you got to high school, friends all still saying the same group, like no change pretty much?
So it was interesting because you couldn't play lacrosse in middle school back then.
Okay.
Lacrosse was a big part of my life. My dad had gone to Ashland University. And Ashland University is it's right outside of Ohio State. It's like right outside of Columbus, Ohio.
Okay.
My mom grew up in Ohio and went to Ohio State. So my dad was a bartender at TGI Fridays, and it's really their love story is very similar to mine.
Yeah.
Actually,
you didn't know her name,
well, no, my dad, it was quite opposite. My dad knew everything about my mom, and my mom loved Johnny Walker Blue, and Johnny Walker Blue is not it's not the cheapest drink. So my dad he'd give her shots of Johnny Walker Blue. And, my mom, she was a very, very beautiful woman. She was homecoming queen in high school. And, my dad was very much in love very quickly. And when they got married, my dad he went to graduate school at Ohio State. So like my dad played lacrosse at Ashland, and my dad was very, very good. And, the old adage with the grandfather, when I was your age, I used to walk 6 miles in the snow to get to school.
Uphill, barefoot.
Yep, that was my dad. When I was your age, I was playing lacrosse with 2 broken thumbs, the broken collarbone, and blah 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 blah. So
probably was health, concussions, all that shit.
Yeah, my dad and Mr. Lamedy, they started. Whoa. Yeah, they started because they went to high school together. My dad, my uncle, Mr. Lamedy, they went to Abington together.
Get out.
Yeah, they started what was called Crooked Cross Lacrosse League, which was Wissahickon and Upper Dublin. So Wissahickon and Upper Dublin kids were able, because we were the only 2 districts that didn't have a program from, after 6th grade or 7th grade. So they had started this with this other guy. And, it gave us an outlet. It gave us a chance. So like, that's where I met Malhorn. That's where I met, some of the other guys who were really into lacrosse, like Doug King and James Eckert and McQuaid and, all these guys. Like it was really one of those things that I am so thankful that in 7th and 8th grade, we had Crooked Cross, because if we didn't have Crooked Cross lacrosse, who knows? I was not the best lacrosse player, but it was a passion. It was one of my favorite things. Like I said, it goes back to the football thing. You're sitting there and I'm an attackman. I'm 5'6". I got these guys who are like 6'4" that are just enormous. And their job is to take this big ass stick and to whack me in my hands. And I'm not about that, but it turned out to be a lot of fun. And, my dad got Malhorn and myself on the same team. And, that's kind of how I developed the relationship with Eric Malhorn. And, Malhorn brought me into a whole new group of friends that, I didn't even know about,
Coolest kid in school.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like Nelson and Blackie.
Most popular kid in school.
Yeah. Nelson and Blackie and all those guys. And it was a lot of, it was just a lot of fun, man. It was a good ride. Malhorn and I, like, we connected from the jump, and it was weird because the first time that I had him over, we're like playing like Sega Genesis or something. And I'm like, oh, what game do you want to play? And he's like, I don't give a fuck, dude. He's like, never.
I don't play video games, dude.
Yeah, well, I'm like sitting there. I'm like, oh, well,
I'm Eric Malhorn.
I was like, well, I don't give a fuck either. I mean, is this even what you want to do? Like, what do you want to do? And it was like, one of those things where, but like him and I, like, we connected, and it was just a really cool thing. So going into high school, I had all those relationships, plus the Stony Creek relationships, plus the outside relationships. So I was in a pretty comfortable spot with, in regards to like, just like friends. But, I think like the best part of my high school career was probably like 10th or 11th grade when K-Rod and Bill and Evan, when they came into the fold. You know what I mean? Like, that was so much cooler because it was like 2 groups that were like, they were like out here, but then they kind of like intertwined. And it was really freaking cool because Bill Richardson to this day is still one of the funniest guys I know.
Okay.
Hilarious. K-Rod, he lived in my neighborhood, and it was like one of those things where him and I would be friendly, but it was never like, and then when he started dating Natalie Cooner, that's when everything kind of like, when everything started.
I was going to say, what changes the group that all of a sudden these 3 people who we've been in school with this whole time all of a sudden get introduced?
And that's kind of where everybody started kind of getting intertwined. And then like Evan, he had the most infectious personality. And Evan was a guy that, like, growing up, WRA basketball, like, you look at Evan and he's just this big dude. And, it's just like Evan hated basketball. I don't know how many people know that. Like, he played because he was tall. He did not like it. He couldn't jump more than 6 inches off the ground.
Right. I didn't want to say, I remember going to see him at the games and he was off the bench. And I remember thinking, like, why isn't this guy like the starter? He never seemed to be like the big basketball guy.
As far as, as far as I know, it was not his favorite thing to do. He did it because he was big. He did it because coaches expected it of him, I think, more so. But, Evan's passion was and always will be music. To kind of see like where Evan was and to see like where, like, right before he passed away, to see like how his music grew. Like, I'll tell you what, man, after Evan passed away, I went on a huge E-Dub kick. And it was every single day, to the point where my wife was like, I can't listen to him anymore. And I'm like, it reminds me like he's still here. You know, you hear his voice. And you know, my kids adore his music. And you know, like as a white person who, you know, who doesn't want to put like my hip hop on for my 8 and like 6-year-old child. You know what I mean? Like I want to make sure that I don't care if they hear an F-bomb here. I don't care if they, you know, it was really like, and it was good music. And it was something that where I was like, okay, I can listen to hip hop. My kids can hear this too, because they hear me cursing up a storm anyway.
Sure. Nothing they're going to go out and recite and you go, oh, fuck, we got to turn.
Yeah.
I get you 100%.
Exactly. It just like, it blows my mind to this day that he's not around. And, you know, as somebody who is not, I wouldn't say I'm staunchly religious, but I believe in a higher power. And I know that Evan didn't always feel the same way. It's just funny because like every single time that like something big's about to happen, like, I mean, I think about like the Eagles, like before the Super Bowl. So I was at the NFC Championship game against Minnesota. And this was like, Evan passed away February 13th. So it was almost a year. It was almost a year to the day. It was in January of 2018. So it was almost a year to the day of his passing. And I was like I'm with my father-in-law and the Eagles go down 7-0. And I just look up and I didn't even know, like I said to I was like, Mom, I was like, I need you right now. And I was like, E-Dub, I know you're up there. I know you're watching. Brad, I shit you not. Not even 30 seconds later, Peterson got the interception and ran it back for a touchdown. Wow. And next thing you know, it's 7-7, changed the entire complexion of the game. Wow. So like, it's little things like that. Like even with my mom, like having like seeing a ladybug or a cardinal outside, you know, those are the things that were important to her. Or hearing Jimmy Buffett Come Monday, or you know, any song that my mom loved. You know, it's just these little signs that like, it makes me happy to not only like that it brings them back into the forefront of my memory, but also that I had relationship, especially with Evan, man. Like I said, like such an infectious guy. You walk down the hallway and you hear his high pitched laugh, and it's just like, I wonder what he's laughing about. And I guarantee you that if he laughed about nothing, it was the most random shit. You could make Evan laugh, like belly laugh, no problem. You know what I mean? Yeah. And he was my first, you know, obviously we just lost DMX, and DMX was a huge part of like 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade. Like DMX he was all over the place. So Evan was the one who introduced me to Drag On. and Drag On, obviously, like he was just one of my favorite rappers. And
really?
Like, great. Yeah. So like, I'll never forget riding around in Evan's big electric blue car and his Explorer. And who we got? Yeah. Look at that. Look at those ears. Look at that kid, man. Oh my gosh. That's so funny. What's
car collecting and video games, NBA architecture player. And NBA player. See, you want to be an NBA player.
You know,
the Indian in the Cupboard was his favorite book. Great movie. Jurassic Park, favorite movie.
Great series. Floor hockey,
favorite memory.
Funny. That was
How good is that?
Yeah, man. But like the funny part about Evan's car was Evan was so big that he had to remove the back seat. Like you couldn't. There were only two people could be in that car, and he replaced that back seat with a freaking like huge amp and subwoofer.
Yes.
And, we would knock freaking Drag On going up and down like Meeting House Road on our way to Uma's or on our way to wherever we were going.
Gonna kick this shit from my bitches and all my hoes.
Dude, it was those are the memories. And it was funny because like, you know, as the shortest person, I could never ride with Evan. And that was one of the things that pissed me off.
Too twinsish?
Yeah, but there were many times where Evan would be like, yo, get my car. Like, shotgun Evan's car. You know what I mean? And I would hop in because like he had his other, I don't want to say his other friend group because we were all cool. But I mean, it was like the K-Rods and the Bills and the people that he had more of a relationship with, even like the Mossies and, you know, those individuals. And it was like, all right, whenever I got to ride in Evan's car, even in high school, I did feel like a big deal. And Evan always had that ability to make you feel like a big deal, like you mattered. You know what I mean? Because he was so freaking down to earth and such a just always a genuine dude. Like there was not a hateful bone in that guy's body. And that's why I felt like it was such a tragic loss when we lost him, man. Amma texted me, and when he said that to me, it hit me in a different way. It really did. And, you know, I remember talking to Nelson about it and telling Nelson, like, you know, he was kind of the glue at that point. Nelson was like with all of our group. And I just remember like kind of telling him like, man, like, I feel bad. I wasn't around. I didn't check up on him. I didn't do this. I didn't do that. And even though it was out of my control, like Nelson had put it in like great words. Like, dude, he loved you. You know, he loved you. And whenever you guys saw each other, like every single Christmas Day night, when we either opened up Reeds or we went down to the Whip Pain Tavern or wherever, you know, Evan would always come in. And the first thing that I would do is try to do like a body, like jumping off the bar and like a cross body splash. And Evan would catch me. And that was the best part about being the little guy, because Evan, we wouldn't even be paying attention. He would just catch me. And it's just like, all right. And then it's like, you know, like pushing, like pressing me like Ultimate Warrior. And it was one of those things, man. Those are some great memories. And those are the memories that I cherish. And, you know, it just sucks to not have him around and not have, because dude, I don't know if have you listened to his music?
Yeah, I was actually like really, so when he started coming out, you know, and I did some rapping for my own, like in college and a little bit after, and like I was really into just like rhyming for my friends and for shits and giggles, and then when I saw that he was rapping, not only was he rapping, but then he was putting out music videos, and I did video. So I was like, boy, I rap and I shoot and I can shoot video, like, and he really like raised the bar of like, oh man, if I wanted to like do it, like that's what I should be doing. And I was just like, you know, when you look at something from someone and it's like similar to shit that you do, you want to kill it. Like, oh, I can do better than this. When I watched those videos, I would watch them on loop, dude. And I would just like go through it. I was like, fuck, this is so good. And then he was doing it every Friday. And I was like,
Fridays. Yeah, man. And they were like, on his own beats. He did all that.
Right. And that's the thing. So I was like I was on free loops. And so I could make beats, but like I was not good enough to do it to make that many good beats.
Right.
And he was fully functional of a hip hop artist. And I was envious. I was like hopeful that at some point I could catch him at the right time, right vibe, and be like, dude, you know, I spit. You want to like just like, let me do a song with you. Let's just put it on Facebook. Like, I would have loved to have done that.
I was blessed that I was able to actually to write something, because as a creative writing major and someone who is a writer, you know, I was able to put together like a poem that K-Rod read at the funeral. And it was like, you know, right after the eulogy. So it was really cool, just kind of put everything together. I have social anxiety, so I can't get up in front of a crowd. Especially adults. Like with kids, I'm a teacher, so I have no problem doing it with them. Mm-hmm. I have no problem doing it with you, but it's like when it comes to like adults, like I get really, really nervous, and you know, it's just a weird thing. But I was really, really happy, and I know his mom and his sisters, you know, they reached out, and it was just an honor to be able to kind of like honor him with a little bit of words that I could come up with. So it was, you know, it was a shitty day, but you know,
you got the memories, and
exactly.
Keep holding it high, you know.
And the music, man, that it's
a great thing about music lasts forever. You know, as we're doing with DMX, you know, and listening to DMX, like I've been listening to DMX, you know, nonstop for the past week, everything, and I, you know, to have a friend, to have that, to be able to leave that with you, to take with you, that's pretty awesome. You know, with me for a lot of, you know, with DMX and other artists, a lot of that is like my relationship with Ray and the memories that we have. And Ray was the guy to put me on to DMX. We used to sit in his room all day on the weekends, all day long, just listening to DMX. And I was the jiggy guy. Let's put on Mace. Let's put on Feel So Good. Like I want to hear Jealous Guys. And he was like, no, we gotta listen to Stop Being Greedy. And we would just listen to Ayo Dog. And like, it would just brainwash.
there's so many memories that are attributed to music. You know what I mean? You hear that first, who dick you sucking? Like you hear that, and it's like, holy shit, this brings me back to Julia Preston. This brings me back to Chrissy Benedict. This brings me back to those people.
Do you want to clarify that?
Yeah, well, I mean, no, that came out completely wrong. Oh my God, that was actually don't edit that.
We're leaving that in. Staying in.
That's funny. I didn't mean it like that. I meant the song in general, like going back to like their car, like Julia Preston's house was one of the party houses.
Okay.
And that was DMX, and Chrissy Benedict was our ride. Like she would drive us because she
had that Blazer.
The Blazer. She was dating Farley.
Trailblazer.
Yeah,
I remember, dude. How sick is it? I remember what car she drove.
It's crazy, man. Like, and it's just like that's what those songs, they bring me back to the Blazer, going to Julia Preston's and going and just having a freaking ball. And having, like, her house was so sick, and she lived right next to Blackie. So like, Blackie was his house. He had originally had the one house, and then they built a house right behind it. And then, so it was just crazy, like how intertwined everybody was. And that was before, like, we would hang out with all the girls, like the Adrians and the Alicias and the Leslies and the Julias and all them. And then, it's like, you hang out with them, and then we started hanging out with some of the juniors, like the Jenna Hiltons and the Julie Forsters. And it was like
Julie drove an Xterra yellow.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
I know I am.
Jesus Christ, bro. But no, like I said, it's like one of those things where I wish in hindsight that we could have gotten all those people together and like been together as a big group, because I got so much love for the Adrians of the world, but also for the Jennas and the Julies of the world and the Berkeys and like all these people who like have been around, and it just like we just could never make it work. It was because like the guys were like, we were so flaky. It was like, oh, hey, what are you guys doing tonight? Oh, we don't have any plans. Oh, all right. Hey, girls, what you doing tonight? Oh, we're going to have a party at Liz Lankow's house. All right, we'll be over. You know what I mean? Like, it was just because everybody always expected Amma to have a party or Keenan to have a party or to come over to my house in my basement. There was only a couple places where you could go. And then Alicia's house was always a house. Julia Preston's was always a house. I know I'm missing a couple. Rachel Weiss's house, Liz Lankow's house. So, there were certain places where you could go. It's not like we could just go to the bar. You're freaking 16 years old. And that was, I think that was like the biggest thing. Like, you got to figure out, if we don't have any plans, there's only so many times I can go to garden golf. You know what I mean? And garden, like golf and eat ice cream. Like, that's not what I'm about right now.
Yeah.
So always had to have a plan.
That's funny. In high school, did you have a favorite teacher, favorite class?
Oh, hands down, Miss Patterson. One of the main reasons that I became a teacher, other than my mom. I think, in order to tell this story, I probably have to tell a story about my mom. I think you've been kind of dancing around it, and my mom passed away, and I think that's something that that everybody knows, and it's not a secret. And my mom passed away of a heart attack. She had just gotten clearance from her breast cancer because she had breast cancer. So she went through chemo, radiation.
When was this? Sorry to interrupt. When was this?
No, this was so. Cancer was, I found out when I graduated 2005 from Bloomsburg, and she went through treatments. My mom passed away August 10th, 2007. I was 24. And so I'll never forget the day. 6 months prior to my mom passing away, we got a new dog. We got, her name was Daisy. She was a Vizsla. And, my mom went out, and I went to work. I don't know if you know this, but I wasn't a teacher when I came out of college. I worked at TV Guide, and I was
TV Guide.
Yeah, Matson Ford Road. I was a copy editor, so I was on the sports team. Like, they gave me a bunch of channels. So a lot of what you see on the NFL Network that was from 2005, 2006, I probably wrote the copy for. And that was a pretty cool job. I loved it. They paid you pennies on a dollar, which is, and my whole goal when I got the job at TV Guide was to go up to New York to write for the magazine. Like, I didn't really, you know what I mean? Like, it was pretty ambitious on my part, but I got passed over for a couple of promotions, and I decided that wasn't for me. So I went to JG Wentworth, where my brother worked. Malhorn and I started JG Wentworth together, and while I was there, JG Wentworth sucked. I don't know if you know this, but
do they get you your large sum of money?
No, they don't. They give you a large sum.
They're the
of
bus
money.
commercial, right? Where everyone's singing opera on the bus about "I need my money now."
Yeah, so you can thank my brother for that commercial. My brother was the head of marketing when that commercial came out, and he approved it. And
Dope.
so, yeah,
Legendary.
And I was like, it's genius, but I hate you for it because it's still coming out. But it sucked. So my mom's out. She's trying to get the dog toys, and my sister and I come home, or maybe my sister might have been in college. I came back, and my dad had come back, and I was like, Dad, like, where's mom? And he's like, she's not home. So we're looking around. We start calling hospitals, and we find out, we call Suburban General. My mom's in Suburban General. She had passed out outside of where Learning Express was. There was like a Pets Plus or some little dog place. And so she had a big shiner, big black eye. The reason why I tell this story first is because when we talked to the doctor said, 99.9% of the time, this will never happen again. But that 0.1%, she might not wake up. So you have to monitor, you have to do this, you have to do that. So we went through the whole thing. And, everything. Mom was like, she would get her, her blood pressure checked and all that good stuff. And everything seemed to be fine. And then my sister was back from college. I was in my 2005 Hyundai Elantra GT, cruising on down to Jenkintown to go meet Jackie and her friend at the Wet Whistle. I got a phone call from my sister saying that she had just found my mom. And it was pretty devastating. I won't go into the details, but, basically I was about 3 minutes from the Wet Whistle where I was meeting Jackie. And I was just distraught because the only thing I kept thinking about was 99.9% of the time, this will never happen again. 0.1%, it's over. And that's the one thing that I kept thinking of. And so I walked in and I had tears streaming down my face, and Jackie had just gotten her Cosmo, and she looks up and she's with her friend. She goes, "Oh my gosh, are you okay?" And I said, "My mom's gone." And that's pretty much all she needed to hear. So Jackie, she gets up, she's like, "Give me your keys." And I'm distraught, clearly you lose your mom. I mean, it was devastating. But we got through the whole thing. And again, like, it was just a really tough time. So, obviously, you go one of two ways. You either go and you become a complete loser and you drown your sorrows in alcohol.
Right, you go off the rails totally. Yeah.
Which I did for 2 weeks until my wife smacked me across my face.
Totally normal.
Yeah. And she said, this is either going to make us or break us. I'm not ready to let this thing go. Get your shit together and let's go. So I quit my job at JG Wentworth, and I sat down and I was trying to figure out what the hell did I want to do? What am I going to do with my life at this point? And my dad and my uncle, they were going to meet a happy hour over at Wood Paint Tavern. My uncle offered me a full-time job with my grandfather's company. And he said, "Listen," he's like, "but I don't expect you to work 40 hours a week. I want you to take 20 of those hours and I want you to go to school." And my dad said, "Mom always thought that you would be an amazing teacher." And I thought about it and I was like, every single time I drive by a school, I always wonder what's going on in there. I always wonder like what it would be like to be a teacher. I have friends who are teachers and they seem like they got their shit together, and it seems like a pretty cool job. So I went back to school. I went to Westchester, started at Monco, then went to Westchester, working for my uncle part-time. He was helping me pay my mortgage. I mean, without him, none of that would have been possible. But it always comes back, like everybody says, like, who's your biggest influence? And I have to say, going full circle, it was Miss Patterson. Miss Patterson, her personality, the way that she projected herself, the way that she just made me love like grammar, you know what I mean? Like certain little things like that was like, okay, that's what I want to be. that's who I want to be. Miss Patterson had such a huge influence on me. And, you know, I wish that I wish to this day that I had one more chance just to give her a big old hug and say, thank you so much for everything you did for me in high school. I used to get kicked out of Senor Romeo's Spanish class. Nelson can vouch for this. And I would, and actually Elisa Davli and Maria Gigliotti, I would, as soon as I got kicked out, I would slam the door loud as shit. And I would have to go to the principal's office. And I would always be sitting there, and Miss Patterson was doing cut lists at that time. So I'm sitting there. So she'd be like, again. And I'm like, I don't want to hear it. Take my clipboard. So I would help her do cut lists. We'd walk around the school and we'd do the cut lists, figure out where the kids are. And it was just fun. Like she would have so much fun. Like, I want you to call this person in the hallway and I want you to ask them where they were fourth period. And I'm like, okay. And it'd be like people that I don't even know, like, hey, where were you fourth period? And they look at me like, who the hell is
aren't you Chris Gebert? Like, you're not Mr. Madden.
Yeah, and I'm sitting there, and she always was there, and she was always there to kind of like Miss P. I just don't get it. I don't understand why she doesn't like me. It's because you're a jerk. That's why she doesn't like you. You're a jerk. You don't like her class, this, that, and the other. And I'm like, you know, and part of it was true. Like, I was a jerk to Senor Romeo. And I can say that now.
What does that mean?
But like, I was just an asshole. You know what I mean? Like
calling out, making fun of what she's saying.
I think it was more being class clown, like trying to make others laugh. You know, not necessarily.
That was my problem. Yeah.
Not necessarily like I didn't want to take away from her lesson, but I just
thought you had something to add to make this more entertaining for everybody.
Exactly.
Even though that's not the purpose of the 45 minutes.
And then she started filming the class, and that's when I knew shit was getting real. Like, oh shit, there's a camera back here, and she's filming us. So that's when I was like, all right, well, you know, and that's when, you know, she started calling my mom, and my mom would get sick of it. And my mom's like, can you just be nice? And I'm like, I am. She just doesn't like me. And I was a mama's boy. My mom's birthday is March 5th. I'm March 6th. So her and I were like connected that way. Like, she would always be protective. But, you know, Miss Patterson told me how it was. And she was a very, very big influence on kind of what happened after my mom passed away. And then after my mom passed away, Miss Patterson passed away. So it was like, you know, one of those things where it was like, after dealing with those losses, you know, significantly with my mom, and then maybe, you know, just like, damn, that sucks with Miss P, because I didn't have that, you know, that personal out of school relationship with her.
It's a reminder of that influence, and you go, fuck, right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Teacher, my mom, all that. Yeah, absolutely. I get that.
And how can I honor these? How can I honor, you know, these people? And my whole goal was to be a high school English teacher. And I never, ever, ever, Brad, would have thought that I would end up in 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, middle school. Who wants to teach middle school? You have got to be crazy.
Well, it's funny because you said you would drive by these schools and you would wonder what's going on in there. You know, we just got out. You know what's going on in those schools.
Yeah,
debauchery.
Exactly. Yeah, right. And you know, it's just like one of those things. Like, I'm like, all right, do I really want to do this? Do I want to start in Allentown in 7th and 8th grade? Do I want to go down to North Philadelphia and teach 6th grade ELA in Kensington? You know, these are things that I didn't want to do, but I embraced the challenge. And it was something, without those two experiences, I wouldn't be the teacher that I am without them. And I wouldn't be the teacher that I am without having, you know, Miss Patterson, that experience, without my mom pushing me and telling me, this is what you need to be doing. And I just never listened. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things that I totally wish that I used Bloomsburg time to get my shit together and figure it out. But I wanted to be a writer, and I thought that was a path for me. So English creative writing. My dad called me an idiot when I changed my major, but you know what? Like, there's potential there. You know, I have a couple things in the works, and hopefully they all work out. But at this point, I'm just excited just to be where I am. And it sucks. The road getting here was painful and it was hard. But looking back on it, you know, I know I'm in the right spot. I know I'm doing the right thing. I know where I belong at this point in my life. So you got that to thank for it.
Least favorite teacher or class?
Oh shit, man. I don't know. That's a tough one because, you know, Mr. Sabian, I hated math. So I got Mr. Sabian, you know,
Arn or Michael?
I don't even know. I couldn't tell them apart. I just hated them. I hated them both.
Which grade? 9th or 10th? 9th or 10th?
It would have been ninth grade because
Warren.
Mike Mickles and Tom Beal got up and walked out with me, and I got in trouble for that.
Warren algebra.
Yep, that's exactly who it was. So it was
skinnier face.
Yeah, it was that him or I mean Senor Mayo. We just never gelled. But you know what, man? Like every time that I came in contact with a teacher, like it was usually a positive experience. You know, I mean, it's funny because like Amma and I were talking about this the other day, like you know, like Mr. Brody and Mr. Dixon and these teachers who like carved out like Coach Wilson, even who I never even had as a teacher, but had a relationship with him through basketball. You know, I saw Coach Wilson in Home Depot's parking lot last week, and he was like, "Oh, Gep, how you doing?" You know what I mean? It's just
That's
like
cool.
our class was so different, I feel. And maybe like the next class and maybe the class before, you know, there were experiences that we had with those teachers that I don't want to say they were inappropriate or anything like that. You know what I mean? I think that they were just like, I can't have a relationship with a student the way that some of those teachers had a relationship with me now, because everything's under a microscope, you know, and it's like you have to be very careful. Well, I'm the teacher. I'm the teacher. Well, are you going to talk about Mr. Milio?
Well, I was just gonna say, well, some teachers did get caught, you know, going a little far on that whole aspect. Not just him, but you know, I think the other Sabia did, and others, you know. So there's something to it, but I get what you mean, because I did have, and some of those teachers, again, you know, the Milios and some of the others, where I had our teacher base. So something happened in 10th grade. In 10th grade, I believe, is when they started first offering buyouts.
Okay.
9th or 10th, I think it was 10th grade, because I had Mr. Russo with the one eye, with the glass eye for biology. And I think after that, he got the buyout.
Eggs.
So all these older teachers who had been in the district for 30 years or more left. And we got these brand new, fresh out of like Penn State. Like I remember having Mrs. Palmer for like geometry, and she was like this blonde 23-year-old teacher that I was just like, holy shit, like she looked like Britney Spears, you know, like it was like, what the fuck is, you know, and we had Mr. Malone for TV lab, and even Brody was really young, and we just had and Cairns, and there were just a lot of really young teachers that started coming. Mrs. Evans was the English teacher.
I remember Miss Evans.
Yeah, like Mrs. Chaplin looked like Helen Hunt. Like it was just all these really young teachers that you had a little bit more leeway with than you did with, like, you know, I had these like 60-year-old elementary school teachers, and you know. Right. Yeah. Or like you Mrs. Gross or Mrs. Amon, like you had in middle school. Like these are not these teachers. Did I go on and off about the blonde young teachers? Like,
but you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Like it's a weird thing, man. And like I'm the teacher right now where like if we're in class, if we were in school for like before summer, and you know you have a girl whose skirt's a little short or spaghetti straps, I'm the one who goes over to another female teacher and says, you have to tell her about this. I'm not even putting myself in a position to do it, because there are so many like things about that. Like it's almost like I feel guilty like even noticing. And it's like, you know, because these are 7th, 8th, 9th grade girls, but it's like, dude, like, come on. Like,
I'm not looking at you, but I saw you and you can't wear that.
Exactly. And I don't, as a male teacher in a female dominated profession, you know, I just want to make sure not only am I taking caution, but I'm not going to end up as another like stupid statistic for these idiots who think that it's okay to have a relationship with somebody who is under 18, number one. And number two, you know, you're a mentor. You're supposed to be this person, and you're totally taking advantage of that. And, you know, that sucks. But, you know, I can't believe Mr. Quimby, you know,
he's been mentioned a few times.
Oceanography, me and K-Rod, Kevin Rogers, we used to sit next to each other. And this was like, you know, I guess 2000, like it was definitely our senior year.
Yeah. It was the elective science class.
Yeah, and we would write like stupid shit on like on the benches, like on the wood, like underneath, because he had those big tables. He didn't have.
It was never in his class.
Okay, so he had tables. He didn't have desks. So it was two to a table. So K-Rod and I would sit next to each other, and I'd never forget, I wrote "That's hot" on like underneath one of the things.
Before Paris Hilton.
Yeah, before Paris Hilton, exactly.
Took your shit.
I'm the creator of that. Just so we're clear.
You got some money to pay up.
No, it was funny as shit because he was like, Gebert, I need you to stay after class. And I'm like, oh, what the hell did I do? And I remember like he gave us this paper where we were supposed to color like sea animals. Like it was the stupidest thing ever. He was like, color it and cut them out and paste them to another piece of paper. And I'm like, I didn't do that. So I thought he was going to bust my balls about that. And he's like, come over here with me. And we walked over to the thing and he goes, that's hot. He's like, why did you write that on my table? And I was like, that wasn't me. And he was like, you are the only person at Wissahickon who says that's hot. And I hear you say it every single day.
It was like, yours.
Well, that's what I said. I was like, is that accurate? And like I said that to him. I was like, I don't think that's accurate, sir. And he goes, admit it or you're off the Baltimore trip, the aquarium trip. Oh. And I was like, shit. Even if I didn't do it, I was going to admit it. You know what I mean? Like there's no way I'm in hell I'm missing that trip. That's the best trip of the year. So I was like, yeah, it was me. And to this day, I honestly don't remember doing it. I probably did it. And if he says that I'm the only one that said it, and it's in the seat that I sit in,
yeah, you did.
So I guess it makes sense. And I was a scribbler. So, I'll take it.
Yeah, you did that shit, Chris.
Yeah, exactly. I'll own it, especially if it's going to get me a trip to Baltimore to go to see the freaking aquarium. So that was
I wanted to always take oceanography, and I never got out of like what seemed like the core science classes. There are always a few that I always wanted to hop into. I just never got to get into. Oceanography was one of them.
It was a pretty cool class, man. And my sister, who went to Rhode Island and is a marine biologist, who's like, she works as a scientist right now. She doesn't do anything with marine biology, but just to kind of like have that.
Great Seinfeld episode, by the way.
Yeah, right. Exactly. What's that with the whale and the golf ball? But yeah,
the water was rough that day. The sea was rough that day, my friends. Like an old man trying to send back soup at a deli.
Oh God, talk about a hole in one. Yeah.
Is that Titleist?
That's it's just funny, man. It was like one of those classes that like I don't know, like oceanography. Like, what the hell am I going to do with oceanography? It was like
you weren't thinking about what to do with the class. You were like, what can I get through and not stab myself in the eyeball with?
Yeah, senioritis is so bad that give me something that's going to just coast through it. Mr. Quimby made it hard as shit, man.
And teacher selection.
Yeah.
Right. Who do you want to have? Like, oh, I don't want to get this guy. Like I took physics.
Oh, God bless you, dude. What the hell what are you thinking?
Is that it? Physics? No. What's it's one of those. It's after chemistry because I had Mr. McKeenan, the old assistant principal. I had him for chemistry. That was great. And then I had Mr. Haynes. Haynes. And physics, something like that. It was like kind of like algebra. It was kind of like chemistry, but it was way more. And JP wrote in my thing like, that was the bomb when you went at Mr. Haynes, and he kicked me out of the class, and like I got in trouble, and I'm just like, what the fuck am I even doing? What was I trying to prove? Why was I taking honor physics?
What the fuck were you thinking?
What was it? Why wasn't I in oceanography? Like, what the fuck? And it's just like one of those things where like it was a teacher thing, and it was like, wow, wrong teacher, wrong. Like you fucked yourself in this. Like I should have gone with the Quimby or whatever.
Yeah, but
found out what Mrs. Bogdan was teaching and hopped in there.
Well, you brought up Mr. McKeeman in chemistry, and it's funny because when I got into that class, Danny Cassidy and I had Mr. McKeeman, and we used to sit next to each other. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, oh, God damn it, man! I got an old principal now. This is gonna be the worst class ever. I gotta say, man, I gotta give Mr. McKeeman props because
we were like his first class.
Yeah, we were his first class, and like I said, like it wasn't that bad. He made it interesting, and he was. He always reminded me of oh my God, who's the Kip from freaking Napoleon Dynamite with the mustache and the
the brother? Yeah,
the brother. Like that's who
the Wanda coming to pick me up and
right. So,
right, he had the part and the glasses
the little mustache and the tie, and I'm like, this guy cares about his job. If you're gonna leave a principal And as an educator, I know principals get paid a shit ton more than teachers. You know what I mean? So you're going to leave that to come into to be a teacher. I don't know if he had to take a pay cut or anything like that, or if that was like a grandfathered in type deal. But I will tell you that,
it's a different job.
He definitely worked for it. And it was, I give him props for it, man.
He was the teacher, he was the teacher that everyone, because he had the short haircut. Let's just say it. He had the mustache and the short haircut. He looked like Hitler. Right? Everyone say he looked like Hitler. And so when you hear he's going to be a teacher, you're like, oh fuck, God. I got Hitler.
Shit.
But I'll be honest, like, as far as like, in science was not my subject at all. But as far as like teachers that I got along with, I thought he went above and beyond. I remember his son died that year.
Oh shit! I forgot about
that. His son died. I think his son went to UNC.
Yeah. Oh man.
And he was and I remember that was during the NCAA tournament. And like, I used to talk to him about basketball, and just like, there was like for a guy that we joked about and called Hitler. The guy he had a warmness to him that you wouldn't expect from a scary assistant principal. I didn't have no connection like that with Mr. Madden when Mr. Madden took over, right? He just to give him these props that Mr. McKeenan didn't have this. I'm an assistant principal. I'm a scary authority figure. He was fun, down to earth, and kind. It was It's one of the more shocking moments of my high school career.
I agree with you. And being on the other side of his office, when he was a principal, he didn't really have that. I don't know. It was almost like, you get sent to Mr. McKeeman's office. It wasn't like you don't go in with anxiety or nerves. You're just kind of like, all right, this motherfucker, what's this guy going to do? How is he going to be? And, very straightforward. But he had a little edge to him. And that's when I thought, like, when we had him as a teacher, I was like, oh shit, he's not a principal anymore. Like, this is going to suck. This guy's going to run this class like a drill sergeant. But you're right. He had a really, like, he connected. He was trying to connect with his students. And I thought he did a really good job at that. So
yeah.
Yeah, Mr. McKeeman.
Thank you.
Oh shit.
You went to J.G. Wentworth out of college, but when you were in high school, what did you actually think you wanted to do?
So interestingly enough, I had no fucking idea. Yeah. I honestly had no idea what I wanted to do. My freshman year at college, my dad, him and I had a conversation, and my dad's like, listen, I think you should do business administration. And I will be the very first person to tell you that math it's not, I'm not a good math person. Like, numbers just, they mess me up. So we went to so the big thing was, the reason why I went to Bloomsburg was because Mr. Woodward, who was my guidance counselor, he got my SAT scores and he forgot a number. He sent them in he sent them in as a 980 to all my colleges, when really I had it was a 1080. And so he was one number off. And so I was getting accepted to Shippensburg and to Bloomsburg, on summer session. And I was pissed. And I told my dad, listen, I don't want to do summer session. I'm not going up to school. This is my senior summer. We had just rented out a whole house in Wildwood. So my dad called, and Bloomsburg was the only one that was willing to rescind the summer school offer and give me fall admission, because it wasn't my fuck up. It was Mr. Woodward who sent the SAT.
That's unbelievable.
Dude, it's like 1 in a billion. So why haven't I won the lottery yet? That's what I'm asking. That's the way I think about it. And it was, once I got up there, business administration, it was, my first class was cinema appreciation. That was the very first class that I had.
The shit I used to take.
Yeah. The first day I walk in, they're like, yeah, cinema appreciation, 6 to 9. And the first movie that we watch is Taxi Driver with Robert De Niro. I'm like, yo, this is awesome. And so then I would start, doing my own self-medicating before going into, going into
movie class.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're in college, you live once. And then
that was a film study. You ain't got to tell me how it works.
Well, the rest of my schedule sucked, man. It was pretty, it was like, all right, so I have the 6 to 9 on Monday, and then Tuesday I got to wake up and I have accounting at 8 to 8:50. And I'm like, this is just not going to work.
That ain't it.
So, you know, and then there was another math class, and then there was two comprehension classes. And I've always been ELA. I've always been a reader. I've always been a writer. So like I kept those two classes. I kept cinema appreciation. I failed accounting miserably. And I went to my counselor, my advisor, and I said, listen, I was like, I don't know what to do. And I had her for a comprehension class. And she goes, Chris, you know, as somebody who's a writer and somebody who can recognize a little bit of talent, I think that you might want to consider, you know, becoming like a creative writing major. And so I did it without at this point I'm 18, but I'm still scared shitless of my dad's opinion.
Right. They're paying your tuition, right?
Yes, at this point, yep.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to piss off my dad, but at the same time, you know, I like my first semester.
Was it rough, Chris? First 3 of the 9 months, was it tough?
It was rough. I mean, so a lot of people don't know this, but I pledged a fraternity, and I was put in the hospital, and I had to come home. It was close, man. I was I got pretty fucked up. And it was so like around like, so I get there in August, and you know, I'm trying to figure things out. And you know, I go to Bloomsburg, where a lot of Wissahickon people went.
Yeah,
and,
I was gonna say, like, I've interviewed probably like 5 or 6 people that even just talked about the group car rides with you, that even if you weren't like Brandon McQuaid and, you know, just
yeah. So like you know, Scuderi, his brother, was in the fraternity.
Right. Joe and Tom are up there.
Joe and Tom, Steve Pileggi, Johanna Leichner, you know, a couple other people who were Enstemacher, Adrian, you know, like a lot of people that like I just like surrounded myself. I was having fun, but I wanted more. And I couldn't figure out, like, I was trying to make those connections. You know, they always say, make those connections. And then when you get out of college, you're going to have those connections for life, and blah, 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 blah. I was trying to do the college thing.
Yeah.
And really what I should have done is just done my own thing and just been my own person, because it would have ended up the same exact way. So, you know, basically what happened was we were in the basement one night. We got called back at like 2:00 in the morning. As I was walking out of my dorm, Depot was like, where are you going? I was like, I got called back. I got to go down to, you know, to the frat house and do whatever. And
what does that mean, called back?
It's so they would release you as a pledge, and they would let you go on your way. But you had to be available 24/7. So it could be something as simple as, yo, we want Gebert down here to make me a sandwich just to mess with us, you know, a little hazing.
Right.
It was like, this fraternity was really good because it was never about drinking. It was never about like, they were smart. And they wouldn't like sit there and make somebody drink so much where you're going to puke and then they're going to get in trouble. You know, like whatever fraternities still do that.
Like the guy that was dying on the couch, and they try to pick him up and they dropped him on the stairs and all that shit for like 14 hours and let him die. It wasn't that.
Exactly. So they called us back, and when we were down there, like, it was one of the kids' birthdays, one of my fellow pledges' birthdays. So they made like this Crisco cake. It was fucking disgusting. And they put all this shit in it, and they made us eat it. And so they said, if anybody pukes, then we're gonna do calisthenics. And so somebody puked. And so they put one of the kids on my back, and they made me jump up and down. And the last thing that I remember is jumping, and then I don't feel anything, and they said I passed out. Like I was out. So I woke up to Joe Scuderi putting me in the back of his car with Pileggi, and they were taking me up to the hospital, and I was like kind of in and out.
Steve?
Yeah. So I was kind of like, I must preface this conversation with thank you to them, because they were the only two that kind of stepped up and did what they did. Otherwise, it could have been a lot worse.
Sure.
So they brought me up to the hospital, and like I said, I was drifting in and out, man, and it was really weird. And the next thing I remember is waking up in the hospital, like on a gurney, and they put something under my tongue, and next thing you know, it was like instant relief, dude. It was like my entire lungs just opened up. And so what had happened was they said that I had a swollen lung. They had which was
what?
The swollen lung was a result of asthma, bronchitis, and mono. So I had all of these things going on. This is October in the middle.
You had mono and had no clue.
I had no idea I even had it. And
Holy
so
fuck.
I'm sitting in the hospital bed and they're like, listen, like we recommend that you go home. My mom and dad came up and they picked me up, and I was back home for a good 2 weeks. You know what I mean? And
Wow.
the end of my semester pretty much ended with my professors saying, you know, are you coming back? Do we need to excuse you from finals? My dad wouldn't let that happen. My dad said, absolutely not. He's not being excused from finals. You know, he's going to come
You're
back on.
doing
So I had
this.
gone back. Yeah, and I'm glad that he did it. I wanted to do it. I didn't want to be out of school for that long.
Yeah.
But like the whole, you know, so they said that when I went in the hospital, like if you have like 50%, you could breathe like 100% in both lungs, right? 50% on the left side, 50% on the right.
Yeah.
I could only breathe out of 25% of the right lung. And then 75% out of, like, you know, I guess it would have been like 25%. Basically, 50% of my lungs were constricted due to the asthma bronchitis and the mono. And
Holy
I was
shit.
on this medication. Dude, I was knocked
Steroids and
out
all that,
for
right?
quite a while. Um, Everything, man. And
Yeah.
like, I mean, that whole, I would say probably a week and a half, 2 weeks that I was out from when I was at home, complete fog. I don't even remember it. Like it was just my mom sitting there feeding me and taking care of me pretty much. And me trying to like, why am I not at school? Like trying to make sense of the whole situation. But you know, when I got back up, the fraternity usually if they call you a D bag if you know
Don't make it.
pledge a frat.
Yeah.
And I had conversations with a lot of those guys, and they were all like, you know, you're the one that's going to make it. You're the one, and they were always pumping me up. So I felt comfortable about that, and that's probably more so because I had a relationship with a lot of the guys that were in there from high school and things like that. But I also like I busted my ass, and it was something that I really wanted, and it didn't happen. And then like they said when I came back, oh yeah, you know, you're not a D-bag, but if you don't repledge in spring semester, then you're going to be considered a D-bag, and we're going to make your entire collegiate career miserable. So I was, like I said, man, I'm a personable guy. And I had a lot of friends at that point, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not doing this again, dude. I was like 4 weeks in. I was 2 weeks away from being
Right.
a member, and they want me to go through this shit all over again. Fuck that. I'm not doing
Yeah.
it. I'm sorry. I can make my life work without having this fraternity in my life. Now, with that being said, a lot of people kind of looked at me and they were, I guess, I don't know if they were frustrated or with what, but they didn't know what I went through during those 2 weeks. And a lot of them, if they listen to this, you know, this is probably the first time that they hear about what I went through. But I struggled, man. I struggled with it. I was depressed because I wasn't with my fraternity brothers. I was depressed because I wasn't at school. I was having a ball. I was just finally adjusting. I was finding my clique. And then I come back and they tell me that I have to do this all over again, or they're going to ruin my collegiate career. So I said, no, fuck that. This is not, I'm going to do what I need to do. And, you know, Fenstermacher, that's kind of how Fenstermacher and I, you know, became real tight. He brought me down to the baseball house, the baseball team. They were very, very receptive. Depot, he hung out with the swimmers. So we would go over to this house 501 and we'd hang out with them. I made so many more friends and my circle just continued to grow that it made me comfortable. Because,
Yeah.
you know, I've seen people who debagged who had to leave school. And I was like, man, that's a shitty situation.
Yeah, that's
And,
not
you know,
fair.
we made it work. Exactly. And I'm blessed because I made it work. It's not like, you know, the Pellegis and the Scuderis of the world, they didn't freaking shun me. You know, every time I saw them, hey, what's up? What's up? Because they knew they had a personal relationship. It was those other guys who had no idea who I was personally. They didn't give a shit. Oh, that's a kid that passed out that one time. What a pussy. You know what I mean? Like, okay, cool.
That's,
Think what you want. That's cool.
you know, it's so funny. Like that is, you know, now that I've done the podcast and I have a better sense of like some of the people and some of the popular kids, like that is the fear that I used to have about the popular kids in high school. And just knowing some of those people now so much better than I did then. And knowing like they're like, there's like, that's just so fucking whack. That's so just whack to treat someone like that or act like that now. Like, so looking back then, it's like, oh, how lame.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To treat someone like that because of that, like, oh, like, you know, just the peer pressure thing is just, it's so uncool. I don't know any other way to say it more plainly. It's just like, it's so uncool to make someone feel bad for some shit like that. Like, it's just, that's a wild thing to me.
Yeah. And you know what? I mean, I think the best part about it was I didn't let that define me. I was always gonna, especially because I had just had so much fun with these baseball guys, and I was a lacrosse player. You know what I mean? Like, baseball wasn't my bag, right. But Fenstermacher and a couple of my college boys, they always had my back. And then that's why I started surrounding myself with these huge dudes, because I was always scared. I was always nervous, like looking over my shoulder that something might happen. If I'm at like sororities, I hung out with the guys who would hang out with sorority girls. And the sororities, some of them, they, not that they would like look at me differently or anything like that, but you always had to be careful of the people, because there's like, 200 people in a house. So you never know. So we go down to like the Crow house. And I was really cool with a lot of the Crow frat, and they never made me feel awkward. I would go
the Crow house is not Craig McDonald.
No, it's not. I would go to like, some of the other people that I hung out with. I'd go to their sororities, like Brianna McQuaid. Her sorority sisters were one of people that I was very close with. So it was, I felt comfortable in these places. And then as soon as one of those frat guys came in, I would sit there and be like, all right, time for me to go. Yeah. And because I was respectful of what their unwritten rules were. You know what I mean?
It's not worth a conflict. It doesn't matter that much to you.
Plus I'm 5'7", dude. You
just gotta take that bow out. You had your fun and ready to roll.
Exactly. And I think that a lot of the frat guys probably understood that, he's not sitting here like looking at us, egging us on. He's like, as soon as he sees us come in, he leaves. And because I don't want to start conflict between anybody. Sure. I still want to, and it was, and a lot of times like Fenstermacher constantly, dude, stop being a bitch. Let's go. Come on, man. You're fine. You don't have to leave. I'm like, dude, I'm just going to leave. It's all good. I got other places that I can go to. I can go hang out with.
I would roll anywhere. I would be like, yo, I'm with Eric Fenstermacher, motherfucker. I would start that shit.
He's only 5'8", man. He's got some big muscles, but
he's
they're
jacked.
For sure.
He's jacked. Come on.
He's going to kick my ass after he hears this too. He's going to be like, what
Pledgy's like 6'4". Let's roll. Let's go.
Yeah, dude, and they all live in Collegeville, man. It's awesome. Like I go to Fence's house, and the next neighborhood over is Pledgy, and then my sister and her husband are in Fenstermacher's old neighborhood, and then we're 2 minutes up the road from everybody. So
your sister's a year older than you?
You're younger.
You're younger.
2 years younger.
Is Melissa?
Yeah, Melissa. Yep.
I know the name. I don't know the face. I'm sure if I saw her, I would know, but I don't.
Yeah, she hung out with like Jenny Nelson is probably like one of her best friends. There's a couple of them, but ever since my mom passed away, I will say that like, her and our relationship really became super, super tight. She kind of just like popped into our group. I hated her and then she became a freshman, and then she starts like linking in with all of our friends, and our friends are hanging out with her friends, and it's like, all right, like I guess everybody's going to intertwine. And like her and I, like we became closer and closer and closer. And then like I said, when my mom passed, it was like, bam, like her and I were inseparable. She lives right down the road. Her son was born on March 6th, 2020. And my birthday's March 6th, and I'm his godfather.
So what for you, I feel like this could be like a Pandora's box, but for you, let's try and limit it. Favorite artist of high school era. Let's do 3.
Okay.
Let's do 3.
All right. So, oh man, like hip hop, R&B,
anything. Pop.
High school
era.
Oh shit, man. All right.
We'll put Craig David. By the way, I have to tell you, I have to send an apology because in one of the last episodes where we were talking about Craig David, and I shouted you out because I was like, yo, Gebert is all about Craig. He's the only guy I know that's all about Craig David. But then I think it was Leslie. I can't remember. I think it was Leslie. Maybe I was like, yo, Alma's huge into Craig David. I was like, you're fucking right. Like, of course he is. Like, there's two of you, which means there's 3 of us. So Alma, like, my bad, dude. You absolutely are the Craig David guy.
And you know what? I'll never forget. And this is one of my biggest regrets, Brad, is my freshman year in college. Craig David was just enormous. Fenstermacher and I would put on the Craig David album, and we would have everybody freaking just jamming out to Fill Me In or to 7 Days, whatever it was. And
Rendezvous.
Yeah, dude. I wanted that to be my wedding song, and Jackie shot it down, so I went with John Legend. But you know, Rendezvous was like my jam. But the reason why I brought that up is almost said to me, he was like, I can get you a ticket to the Craig David concert in Philly in 2000. It was 2001. It had to have been, or maybe it was 2002. Maybe it was the spring of that year. And I was like, oh man, I can't. I got this going on, blah, 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 blah. And it was the last time that he was here. He never comes to Philadelphia.
He never toured again. He never had another album.
Oh, that's bullshit, man. He's got a bunch of good albums. I love.
He did have another album after that. Was it like Slicker Than Your Average? Was that the second album? Yo, yo, points for me for pulling that out. Slicker Than Your Average. I never heard another album after that.
Goes, man. How the Story Goes. That's a great album. It's the third one. And then dude, he's go on Spotify. He's got some hits, man. I love Craig David, but he's not high school. So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Give me your top three, and then because I need to think here.
So my favorite rapper in high school was Eminem. But you know, Biggie was up there. I remember the Born Again album came out, and like that was when I had retroactively gotten into Biggie. And so when the Born Again album came out, I was like fucking all in on that shit. That was like 11th grade. I was really, really into the Jay-Z Dynasty Rock La Familia album, like huge. But there was also right before that, there was a moment in time in like 11th, 12th grade where I got into more, underground hip hop.
Jurassic 5?
No, the Alcoholics.
Yeah, dude. Exhibit?
No, not Exhibit. Exhibit wasn't it. It was Exhibit's like the solo guy, like not in the. He had some songs with them, but it was
Alcoholics with like Eric. Wasn't it Eric Murray and?
No. You're embarrassing yourself. No, you're thinking of the Death Squad. You're the Keith Murray. You're thinking of Death Squad.
You said you're embarrassing yourself.
Yeah, you're embarrassing yourself.
Exactly right. All right,
you're thinking of Death Squad, which was Keith. Yeah, we'll take that out. So my favorite art. We'll start over. No.
Who was your top three in high school, Brad?
So I'll go Eminem, Biggie was up there, Jay-Z was like on the cusp, but then there was like that era where like I got into the Beatnuts and the Alcoholics. So the Alcoholics were like J-Ro and Tash had that song Nightfall, which was fucking hot, and the Beatnuts were like, Watch Out Now. And they had that song with, they had Watch. Yeah. And they had Off the Books with Big Pun.
Yep.
And
yeah. Oh, man. God damn, you're bringing up so many people. I'm like, holy shit. Who
yeah. And legit senior year in high school, I had a public speaking class and we had to,
public speaking was with started with an F.
I can't remember.
Miss Fennel.
It doesn't sound right.
Was it Mrs. Fennel?
I can't remember.
Fuck.
I can't remember. But it was definitely senior year because I got pulled out right after giving my final speech. I got pulled out for beating up C Money, so I could be sent to suspension for 3 days, a week, the last week of school. But I remember in that presentation, you had to do like a me box. And in the box, I was like, "Yo, my favorite rapper right now are the Beatnuts and Tash of the Licks." I do 7 songs.
Who the fuck's this guy?
Yeah, like who was this? So like, yeah, that was like kind of, and I mentioned this with someone else. I think it was Brian Cho, but like, in high school is when lyrics became really big, like hip hop lyrics on the internet. Were becoming a thing. And I used to follow this website, OOLA, Original Hip Hop Lyrics Archive.
Holy shit.
You remember that? OHHLA.com. And
go ahead and finish your thought. And I have to say something, but go ahead.
And every day they would upload brand new lyrics. And it would be like 40 and a lot. And it'd be like, yo, we uploaded like these 12 songs from this brand new album that just came out, or like this one song from Brother Lynch Hung, or like this one song from Slim Calhoun, the cut song. And I'm like, all right, I'll just get on to Napster or Kazaa or LimeWire or whatever, and I'll the cut song Slim Calhoun, and I'll download it, and like Helter Skelter, Let the Brains Blow, and I'm just like downloading all this shit. And that's how I got into like other hip hop than what was just getting played on the radio. Yeah. And so my world like just expanded in high school of hip hop to where like it was like I loved it, but like I didn't have like a whole body of work like you had 3 Biggie albums to go in on, or like you had 3 Eminem albums to go in on, or you know what I mean, or a couple. You didn't grow up. Like, I didn't grow up with it. Like I grew up listening to Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg, so it was like always. It was like I loved it. I liked it at the time. It was exactly what I was. I loved it. It was what I listened to. But to say it was like my favorite felt weird and a little fake because I only knew like 7 songs from every artist.
Yeah, what's funny, man, is do you remember Tony Joel?
Yeah.
Tony Joel. So we used to go to the library, like during the study hall, and him and I, like this was when Bone Thugs and Harmony, The Art of War came out, the double CD. It had Tupac, it had Thug Love on it. It had Notorious
eyes and tell me what it is.
Yo,
look into my eyes. I hope YouTube doesn't take that down.
This is going to be one of the most unpopular things that probably I will say today. I would say Bone Thugs and Harmony was probably, they were my shit, man. I mean,
why is that unpopular?
I mean, from 7th grade, just because like, there's so many, like you just brought up a bunch of freaking rap artists and I'm like, oh shit, like this, that, and the other. But
dude, no one knows Helter Skelter.
Yeah, well, you'd be surprised. But Bone Thugs was always like they were always my shit, man. Like, and Tony Joel used to go on and just print out lyrics, and he'd be like I remember like the song "Body Rot," which was you said the war going to stop until these motherfucking cops body rot, body rot, body rot, and it's like, what the fuck are they saying? Like Crazy Bone would just go like bam, and I'm like, exactly. And Tony Joel, he used to print out all the lyrics and be like, yo, just in case you don't know what he's saying. I'm like, because him and we connected over like Bone Thugs and Harmony.
Yeah.
So I would say like Bone Thugs they were definitely like my group.
Okay.
If I had to go solo artist, like this is tough because like Eminem was definitely like he was up there. Mm-hmm. And obviously as a white man, I identified with them, and I was
do
like,
this.
Yo, this is cool as shit, dude.
He's bringing it back where Snow left it off.
Right. But I gotta say, man, like DMX, like that, there was so many songs that I didn't even realize. And I only realized just last week when Fence and I were freaking going through the list, how many songs bring me back to that 10th, 11th, 12th grade. So I have to go DMX. He's got to be.
Hold on 1 second. Just because it just happened, hold on 1 second.
Uh-oh.
If this was in person, I would have this behind me.
Oh my, on vinyl?
On vinyl, brother.
That's freaking, and yo, the intro song right there, his first album, the intro. Yo.
You fucking with D?
Oh, man.
That's my man. Because now you know. Now you know.
Oh my God. Like, and then there was just some about his like just dude, he was just he was a bad motherfucker. I mean, there's nothing that I can say that, about like,
the baddest
clearly, but it's ironically, I will say, so I have one more for you. So shit, I guess Bone Thugs and DMX and God, I'm probably Nelly, dude. Like Nelly was just a really like. You
can find me in St. Louis, where the gunplay rang all day. Na.
That album epitomizes my entire senior year.
You ain't wrong.
I mean, there was that album. I don't know if you noticed it, but that album lasted forever. Like he would put out a song.
Oh, the song I just said was like track 3. It wasn't even a single. Like and then the Cedric Entertainer skits. Hey yo, Nelly, I'm out here in the loop.
But I'm saying, like, he came out. The first one was we're going down, baby.
Boom, 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 hot shit.
That was the first song that came out, and then it was EI, and then it was
if you want to go take a ride with me.
Yeah, smoke an L in the back of the
Benzie. Oh, I must I feel this.
Yeah. Hey. So I gotta go Nelly, man, and
that's a good pull.
And you know, the funny thing is, until Depot and I were roommates in college, I didn't give. I like Jay-Z. I didn't give. I don't think I gave Rockefeller the appreciation that they deserved. I didn't give them the recognition that they deserved. So like I will say that the Blueprint, like that album changed my life. Blueprint 2, you know, the Black Album, like, and all of these songs just remind me of Depot, because Depot got me onto this.
I can't let this and I can't wrap this up without talking a little bit of wrestling, because, you know, so for me growing up, I was always the wrestling guy, and I used to like wear wrestling t-shirts in high school, and no one ever talked to me about wrestling. It was like my group of friends, like their cross to bear was that they had to watch wrestling with me. Ray, Scott, some other friends like would have to be into wrestling with me. I didn't have other wrestling friends. But then I want to say after I worked at WWE and I came back to Philly and I would go to shows, then I see that like Kevin and you and are like wrestling fans. And like I'd run into you sometimes at a show in Philly. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, is wrestling like that type of thing now? Like, when did you get into wrestling?
So you know, wrestling, the male soap opera, man. Like it was for me, Amma and I, you know, him and I connected over wrestling probably, like, I would probably say, you know, junior year in high school, maybe senior year. And it got to the point where, like, you know, Stone Cold and The Rock, and like just like the storylines and the characters, and Triple H and Edge and Christian and the Hardy Boys, and like all these dudes, like I'm just like, yo, these number one, these guys are amazing athletes. Number two, I love the storyline. This is amazing. WrestleMania 2000, which came out on N64, probably my all-time favorite video game ever. And that had a lot to do with my love for wrestling, ironically. So I guess to answer your question, it definitely happened in high school. And then college, I used to get made fun of. I was the one who watched wrestling. I watched the OC. I watched like all that cheesy bullshit.
Yeah.
And they would make fun of me. And I'd be like, all right, you know what, man, we got 3 TVs. I'll go downstairs and I'll watch my own. And I think it was like, again, like they were like, all right, he literally does not care that we're making fun of him, because I didn't, like, you know what I mean? Like I wanted to watch my shit, and that's what I wanted to do. So I did that.
In school, did you work?
I did. Yeah, I was. So I worked with Corey Leshner. My first job was at My Favorite Muffin and Bagel, which is right next to where El Serape is. Right. Well, El Serape was. That used to
in Center Square.
Yep, that used to be My Favorite Muffin and Bagel. Ironically, it was Corey Leshner and Eric Malhorn. And yeah, we definitely not
ate all the food.
Not the best job for a bunch of fucking high school kids who, you know, you wake up,
get hungry.
Yeah, exactly. You go to work hungry, you know, especially like you're waking up and getting hungry, and it's 6 o'clock in the morning, and you got to go make bagels and muffins, cinnamon cheese bagel or muffins. I'll tell you what, man, 7 o'clock right out of the freaking oven. Those things, they fulfill you. Every single thing that you need.
I worked at Wawa. You ain't gotta tell me.
Oh shit! Yeah, there you go. And
you took it all.
Yeah, and then Corey left My Favorite Muffin and Bagel and went to right next to Pudge's.
Uh-huh.
He went to
the produce shop.
No, we were in between Pudge's and Pepperidge Farm. It was called Four Seasons Patio and Fireplace. So it was a fireplace and patio store where our boss, he was awesome, man. He was this, very, very flamboyant gay guy who was his name was Eli, and just very, very like just down to earth, and loved Corey. Like Corey, I mean, if you know anything about Corey was very, very mature, you know, at 15, 16 years old. This kid was making money. He was making money. He was getting commission at freaking 16, 17 years old. And Eli was stringing him along and telling him every single thing. And I'll never forget, I sold a grill and I think I made $30 commission on it. And from there I was like, all right, I need to do better. And then I got fired.
Why'd you get fired?
No particular reason. It was business was down, and it was like, Corey was the dude.
Low man on the totem pole.
I mean, literally, yeah, exactly.
What about movies? Any movies from high school that you were big into?
I mean, from the time I was 6 years old.
From high school, let's say.
I was gonna say, I mean, Ghostbusters has always been my shit. So okay. I mean, high school. Ooh, shit. Scary Movie 2. Yeah, Malhorn and I going into Scary Movie 2 with a fifth of vodka and some whiskey.
Of course, as I like to say now in these Zoom times, that this would be the moment I would ask you to sign my yearbook if we were in person. Let's see if I can get this here. Oh,
what a handsome fella.
Oh, wait. Oh, there he goes.
Look at that guy. Shit, I know that my quote was from Alcoholics Anonymous, and they took the AA out of it.
Oh,
yeah, I can't remember. It was like the times in front of us are a lot worse than the times behind us. What is that quote?
It's very close. So the task ahead of us is never as great as the power behind us.
Yeah, all right.
And you took that from AA?
Yeah, it was an Alcoholics Anonymous a quote, and I was pissed off because, like, it says like who the quote was by, and it was Alcoholics Anonymous. That's where I found it, and I thought it was.
Were you going to AA meetings?
We only had to go to AA for, I think it was like 3 weeks.
Was it court mandated thing?
Yeah, yes, it was.
Gotcha.
Me, Keenan Stampone. Who else was in there? There was a couple of us, but it was called Aldersgate, and we got a certificate when we graduated. And,
Did you
met some very foxy women from Upper Dublin? So there was that. So circle became bigger.
Was there a reason that you can talk about why you were in a court mandated AA?
Yeah, Keenan was pissing on a wall outside of Costa's. We had just gotten thrown out of a Wings game because Corey had a bunch of natty lights in his big fucking winter coat.
Yeah.
And he was handing them out. And next thing you know, people are like coming up like, oh, we got eyes in the sky. You can't bring alcohol in here. You guys are under 21. So we dodged a bullet. They just kicked us out. They took our beer and they kicked us out. We get in the car and we go up to Costa's and we're like, all right, let's get, we had to get cigarettes and all the stupid high school things that we did back then. Then Keenan decided that he had to pee and decided to pee right on that brick wall right in front of
busiest intersection of Ambler.
Exactly. Cops pulled in and arrested us and yeah. All right,
So when you put this quote in, then is it as a joke? As a hey, remember we were there, wink wink?
No. I like I said, I'm a wordsmith, man. I love like quote. It took me a long time to figure out my quote. Like I put a lot of thought into it, and I just thought like, hey, you know what? Like this is where we're going, and I want to make sure that I do something that I'm remembered by. I didn't want to do something stupid, and be looked at like you're a douche. So that was the quote that I came with, and it was Alcoholics Anonymous. I put that on there, and they cut that part out. I'm like, that's interesting because if you look through the senior yearbook, there's a couple Easter eggs that I'm sure you can find where people have said stupid shit or put stupid initials next to each other.
Yeah.
They spell things out. So yeah.
Oh, now I'm gonna have to. Oh, I see what Dan Eisen did. I'm going to dive deeper in this. All right, so let's look at your clubs then. You got swimming from 9 to 12. We haven't talked. I mean, other than the fact that you hated swimming and then you did swimming, what's that about?
I just hated it.
But you still did it.
Yeah, my older brother, man, he got a scholarship to Delaware. He was big into swimming, and it was something where my dad was like, you have to do a sport every trimester, and like, what are you going to do in the winter? And I wasn't good at swimming, but I wasn't terrible. So it was like one of those things where like it didn't matter how big you were. It didn't matter like about muscles. It didn't matter
Speed.
about anything. It was just it was something that I was decent at, and it's like, all right, let's go.
Okay.
I'll do it. I'll swim.
Okay.
The worst part about swimming was morning practice at 5 a.m. Like, fuck that, dude. I don't even wake up at 5 a.m. now with kids.
Yeah.
Like, my kids start screaming. All right, I'll throw like a Hershey's Kiss in there before I get out of bed.
Come get you at 6:30.
Yeah, exactly. Take another hour.
Football for 9, so you didn't keep it going. But
Yeah,
you tried it.
Ricky Smith, he busted my he bruised my kidney, and I was pissing blood for like 3 days. Picked me up, put me down right on my back, and I started peeing blood and had to go to the doctor. They're like, you have a bruised kidney. By the way, the most painful experience of my entire life.
And then lacrosse 9 through 12.
Yeah,
and,
man.
And he got 1 year of Key Club.
Yeah, the 1 year where all right. So lacrosse 9 through 12, definitely the best 4 years of my life. I loved everything about lacrosse, except for our coach. Coach Gabriel did not like me, did not, appreciate, what I brought to the table. I was an attackman, like Jaywan and who were some of the other attack guys, like Danny Cassidy. They were better athletes. But every time that I would go in, like, at least I would get like an assist or a goal. You know what I mean? Like, it was fun to play, but I was the JV superstar. Like, here I am junior year. All my boys are playing varsity as juniors. And here I am. But you know what? Same time, I'm cleaning up on JV. Like, that's the way I looked at it. I'm like, oh shit. I'm the leading goal scorer for the JV team, like things like that. You gotta look at the good. And so lacrosse, I mean, for me, it wasn't about being good. I just loved the sport, the contact, the camaraderie, like just everything that we did was a lot of fun. Key Club, yeah. So it comes to Key Club, and this is probably where we're gonna have to log off after this story, dude. So I will tell you that Mr. Milio was in charge of Key Club, and well, it has nothing to do with Mr. Milio.
Okay.
So Mr. Milio, so we went to the zoo, the Philadelphia Zoo, in our senior year in high school. And for whatever fucked up reason that Mr. Milio was thinking of, he decided to team me and Malhorn together to take care of a Shady Grove. I think it was like probably a first grader. His name was Francisco. I'll never forget it. So Francisco was a ADHD student, and he said, I'm putting both of you together because, two of you, one of him, he will, he'll go crazy. So no sugar. Soon as we get off the bus, Malhorn takes Francisco to the funnel cake line and gives him funnel cake. Yeah. All right. So I went to the bathroom, and I come out, and I just see Francisco housing funnel cake, man. Like, it's all over his face. I'm like, Eric, yo, this is not good. And Malhorn's like, dude, stop, man. Let him have some fun. So we had to take him to the nurse at like 11:30 so he could take his medicine. And we didn't know where the nurse was. We're in West Philadelphia. We're in the Philadelphia Zoo. You have no idea where the nurse is. So Malhorn and Francisco are running in front of me. Nurse! And dude, this is a true story. Like, I'm embarrassed. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe Malhorn's having the time of his life, thinking this is hilarious. Francisco is just freaking running up and down the walls. And we finally find the nurse, get the medicine, and I am just like mortified. And I like Mr. Milio, we get back on the bus, and Mr. Milio goes, how'd it go? And I was like, it went really, really well. And never another word was spoken about it. But the people and the way that they looked at us, 2 high school kids with a first grader screaming up and down for the nurse.
Yeah.
I was just sitting there. I was like, I don't know how this is ever going to work out. Like, as an educator now, I never would have thought that I would be an educator. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
What kind of dumbass, like.
But it wasn't you, it was Eric.
Well, I also told Eric, I said, listen, I have to go to the bathroom. Let me pee real quick. I'll meet you right by the snack bar. that was my fault. So Malhorn is sitting there and he's like, all right, snack bar, funnel cake. Let's give this kid some fucking sugar and let's see what happens.
Well, this has been like awesome, dude. We fit it in. We got it in before you got to roll and get the kids.
Yeah, it's actually, and my wife, she just got home and if I showed you, stop talking, you talk too much. You never stop talking, do you? Just stop. These are the memes. These are the memes that she's sending me. I'm not even
right now.
Like she literally just walked in and I'm like, what the fuck, man? You got your hair done. Like, good. I'm glad you got your hair done. We got to get the kids at 7 anyway. So here, I'm doing everything that I can do to make this thing work for you. Dude, this was a ball. This was a lot of fun. Yeah, dude. I appreciate you having me, man. Like I said, I've been kind of like secretly waiting for it, and I'm glad that it actually worked out. I'm glad that we made it work out.
Definitely.
And hopefully my kids are full of pizza now, and I can go and fucking take them, and then I can get some food in my stomach because I probably did at this point.
Perfect.
All right, brother.
Have a
good night, man.
Thanks, man.
Good weekend, of course. Thank you very much.
Thank you, man. It was a great time.
Yep. I'll talk to you soon, man.
You got it. Later, dude.
All right, later.